let's get rolling. Welcome back to HPP, the podcast that covers college basketball and the NBA draft inside and out. I am Rich Harris, and thank you for joining us again. Today, I am joined by Jake Kopstick and Ayab Booney. Drew Barton probably will not join us, at least for this section, which is the college notebook, including, and we're going to start off with our G League Elite Camp review. Gentlemen, have you recovered from listening to John Fanta for 2 straight days?
Nope. That was painful, man. That was just absolutely painful. I mean, John Fanta thought 18 guys were going to get a knock on the door to go to the NBA Combine. Every person. It was just like, come on, man. It was hard to listen to.
Every time somebody made a basket, he's like, he's improving his stock. You know, guy would tie a shoe. He's improving his stock. And the comment that really got me from somebody who, and Jake would probably agree if he heard this, was he said that Dante DiVincenzo's draft stock rose through the roof from the national championship game. And that's the problem I have with Fanta. He doesn't follow the draft. He doesn't really do the draft. He doesn't, I spend, all year focusing on the draft. And
he said he raised like 30 spots or something, 40, something ridiculous. Maybe he didn't say a number, but it was basically from nowhere to be found to, hey.
Which is not true. I mean, no, anybody who follows college basketball knew Dante DiVincenzo was a legit NBA prospect. I think what really shocked us was when he went to the Combine, and I mean, not shocked us, but reaffirmed everything we had been seeing, is when he went to the Combine and knocked it out, not only in the testing, but also on the court. So much so that he didn't even play day 2. That's how well DiVincenzo did. But the national championship game, maybe for the average fan. But see, my problem with Fanta is he tries to do too much. He really, he's a Big East guy. He does play-by-play. That's his regular job. But now he's trying to be a draft guru. Come on, you can't do it all. You can't do it all and sound intelligent. He drove me crazy.
I didn't like the one play. Bartista, one of the first plays of the first scrimmage, he goes between the legs, has that dime to Anton Watson. Nobody said anything about it.
Well, that's the other thing about the whole broadcast. They're talking about.
You're right.
It's like nothing. It was an amazing play. It was like eye-popping because you think he just got scored on. Immediately comes down the court.
Here's what drove
legs dime.
Nobody said anything. Nuts about it too was that what's key for me when I'm watching the game is, especially in a game like that where it's kind of hard to. I want to know the statistics as the game's kind of going on.
Right,
you get a better feel of what's going, what's
exactly
happening. Okay, has he shot as many times do I think? How many assists does Noel have?
Or who the hell just blocked that shot, ran full court and dunked it? Because all these guys are in these generic uniforms, not wearing their usual number. They're in an environment where we're not used to seeing them, so we don't know who's who, and they don't talk about the game.
I had to stop it, go back, and stat it myself because that's the only way I can have a real feel for it.
They talk about everything but the game. M. Bader says he thinks that Mongolia Mike is the best player there. Who gives a rat's ass?
It was so bad.
Tell me who just scored. Terrible announcing. And the only reason I had the sound up was because I was hoping once in a while, if I was confused about who just made a play, I actually found their roster numbers later. So I kind of did turn down the volume pretty low. But before I had the roster numbers, I had to listen. But half the time, maybe even more than half, they didn't tell you who was doing what. It was just Fanta running his big mouth. But anyway, all right. So I'm going to get KP'd. G League Elite top performers. Now, I listed guys that top game performers I'm talking about. I listed guys that stood out statistically or stood out to me, just watching the game. But I'm gonna let you go. I'll start with you, Booney. You tell me who impressed you the most. You probably some of the guys will have on the same list, but go for it.
Like I said, I did two lists, right? I did one list where I had my top performers of the tournament who just played the best, and then I had my guys that that I feel that if I was a GM or an NBA team, I'd want to take a further look at. I think without a doubt, the best performer of the G League was Janiyah Broome, without a doubt. I mean, he was just simply dominant inside and out and so forth. The individual that shocked me the most, as far as, wow, he's doing a lot with the ball. He's putting the ball on the floor. He's getting to where he wants to. He looked a lot quicker than I thought, was Hunter Tyson. I thought he looked – now, statistically wise, he didn't have a great tournament, and he was a lot less assertive the second game than he was the first game. Olivier from Tennessee, I thought I'd want to take a further look at. I don't think he had one of the best tournaments out there, but the way the ball was coming out of his hands from three was darn impressive.
Yeah.
Gortman, the overtime elite kid, I thought was really, really good.
Right.
One kid that wasn't invited that I was shocked was Marquise Noel. Now, I know he didn't have the best numbers, but he was always making a play happen. And when you're looking at somebody like Kendrick Davis and Marquise Noel, I know Kendrick Davis had better numbers, but he had it in a little bit of a spurt there at the second half toward the end of the game, which made him look a lot better. So Sir Jabari Rice was impressive. I thought Antoine Davis played surprisingly well for me. He hit, I think, 9 threes in the tournament and played great defense. Dylan Jones from Weber State was really, really good. Leaky Black didn't have the best numbers, but his plus minus was a 15. He was always in the right spot. He was rebounding. He defended. I thought he was really, 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 really good.
Yeah, Leaky Black did everything but put the ball in the hole. But yeah, he was impactful in other ways. And I think that's the thing with Leaky. If he, I think he's been improving over the course of his career. I guess he was at North Carolina for 5 years. And his 3-point shooting's best. But you could see, this year they would let him open. He's the guy they would let open. And a lot of times he'd miss open threes. I think he shot about 35% this year. It's a shame. It's a shame. I'm hoping he could turn that around, but I don't see him getting drafted because of that. He's still, once again, in this event, he couldn't put the ball in the hole.
The only guy that I saw that was a really, really surprise. I don't know how you guys feel as far as getting an invite to the NBA, to the NBA Combine was Tosan from Princeton, I believe, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. A woman.
I was surprised he got. I thought there was just better players out there than him that deserve so. PJ Hall a little bit. He had a couple spurts in that first game where he saw a few pick and pop for three. Got the shot off really, really quick. You're like, where did that come from? So I can understand that. I thought Colin Castleton looked good. I thought he looked extremely athletic. I was surprised he didn't get an invite, but I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought the best game was the first game, and then it kind of
Actually, all of them were pretty competitive, and the one that was looking like a blowout turned out to be close.
Yeah,
it's kind of like last night's NBA game.
As far as the cleanest I'm talking about, yeah. As far as when you,
right, yeah. There were a lot of fouls, a lot of turnovers in these games, but that's always going to be the case. Jake, what are your thoughts? Who impressed you?
Yeah, so got to agree with Booney on a couple of these guys. Obviously, Janiyah Broome was awesome, and so was Sir Jabari Rice. To talk about Janiyah Broome, like when we had talked about it, I think the first episode I ever did with you guys when we talked about Janiyah Broome was like, does he have enough offense? Does he have enough shooting is he can block shots and he's a force down low and can grab rebounds. Is a big body down there. And the first three he took, it was a swish. Like, it looked good. And if he can continue to string that together, then he might have a shot. Because I know when we had talked about his draft stock then, we said, hey, maybe the very last couple picks here could be worth it if you have a big center who can block shots, can rebound, and can maybe hit some threes. So I love what he brought to the table. Jabari Rice as well. That damn shot fake, man. It works every single time.
He got called for a walk, though, on one of them.
It's great because it's not only can he sidestep for a three, but he had a bunch, even when he was at Texas and even here, he had a bunch of plays where it's like he could have got a hockey assist. Or it was a pass after he made a pass that got a guy an advantage or a driving lane. So his feel, his IQ, and that shot fake that, it's not just cool because it's effective for him to get by, but you see how much room he has to operate. And then he's able to find guys and kick the ball out, make the right pass, and create for others. And then Jay-Z and Gordman, I'll be honest with you, I watch college basketball exclusively. Don't watch the G League Elite. Like, I don't watch the Ignite team. I don't watch Overtime. No disrespect, but I'm a fan of college basketball. That's what I'll watch.
Yeah, well, I mean, Overtime's not easy to find either. I mean, you gotta. I forget. I think maybe they have a YouTube channel where you can watch all the games. I mean, I've been watching them on our stat services that we pay lots of money for, Instat and Synergy. But even Instat and Synergy don't have a lot of their games. But I got enough to at least get a good feel for the four prospects coming out of there. But I'll talk more about Gortman when I get the floor.
Yeah, well, I'm about to kick it over to you. I just wanted to say I was super impressed with the first play he catches the ball and he slapped the ball. Michi Johnson's guarding him. He slaps the ball so hard you can hear it on the broadcast. Rips from the baseline, gets an and one, has a little bump, creates a little bit of space, gets himself an and one. His toughness was great. I'm impressed with him, and I'm excited to see him play at the NBA Draft Combine and want to see what he brings to the table there against another crop of really good players coming out of Overtime Elite. So super impressed with him. Thought that he deserved the invite definitely to go up to the NBA Draft Combine, and I'm definitely interested to see what he does there. And with that, Rich, I will let you have the floor so you can talk about Jay-Z and Gorman.
All right. Well, I'll save him for last, actually. But first of all, I want to say to our listeners that right now we're talking while the combine's going on. I don't think any of us have had the time to watch much of the action there, or the results from the athletic testing that was done on Monday and Tuesday isn't even posted by the NBA.com yet. So we're going to review the NBA Combine last week. We focused on the G League Elite Camp this week. One thing at a time, folks. The guys I was most impressed with, I thought Kendrick Davis, and first of all, everybody pretty much plus or minus, probably plus or minus 5, played around 40 minutes in the 2 games. And everybody we're talking about played 2 games. So basically we're giving you 40-minute numbers. So for example, Janiah Broome had 40 points and 12 rebounds, plus 20 in the box score, 4 block shots in roughly 40 minutes. He was probably a little more because his team won both of their games. And he was definitely one of the better players in the game. But Kendrick Davis, I think what impressed me about him was he was 7 of 17 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3, which are not big numbers for Kendrick Davis. I mean, this guy's a shooter, a scorer. He totaled 24 points. But what I thought was really impressive is he went out there to show that he could be a playmaker, and he did it. He had 11 assists and 4 turnovers. The turnovers aren't great, but when we look at 11 assists, that's like a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. So I think that's the one thing that Kendrick Davis can do to actually make his way in the NBA. There's a lot of guys out there who can score, but when you're 6'2" and under like Davis is, you got to be able to play make too. And he went out and showed that. I talked about Janiah Broome, and you guys did as well. So Jabari Rice, he had some turnovers, but he also had some impressive passes. He had 29 points, 3 of 8 from deep. Showed his athleticism, showed more ability than just being a catch and shoot guy. Dylan Jones. Dylan Jones was really impressive he didn't do much as a shooter. I think he was only like maybe like 0 for 2 from deep. He had 24 points, but he had 14 rebounds, 6 steals, and he was just one of those guys that was making a lot of impact plays. I will tell you right now, though, Dylan Jones is too heavy. Dylan Jones did not test out well. Dylan Jones needs to lose weight. And he could be, that's during the season. I did not ever put Dylan Jones in our top 200 because I'm like, this guy's not athletic enough. He's too heavy. But his statistics were off the charts. Not Big West, Big Sky Player of the Year. And he's a stat sheet stuffer, does it in a lot of different categories. So I think Dylan Jones probably should go back another year, drop some weight. And that's one of the problems you see with these smaller schools. Players just don't get the opportunity to get in as good a shape as they would, between a Duke and a Duquesne. That's one of the big differences. First of all, usually the Dukes their players are about on average like 2 inches taller. But then, you go to a Duquesne or a Weber State, but they're also just not defined physically. They're not in peak shape. Coaches at those schools really should, that's something players can do on their own time. But anyway, all right. Castleton was his steady, usual self. He had a season cut short with a broken hand. He did what he usually does. Scored efficiently, 7 of 13 for the field, 22 points, 8 rebounds, 3 blocks. One guy you guys didn't mention, but is going to be on this show, is Drew Peterson. Yeah. And Drew made a lot of, just like Dylan Jones, made a lot of different types of impact plays. He was 6 of 9 from the field for 20 points, 11 boards, 6 assists, 3 steals. The only downside was he had 6 turnovers. But Drew's never been a super high turnover guy. He's a smart player. He's an intelligent player, has a great basketball IQ. So I'm not too concerned about that. He also didn't test out bad athletically. So that's a good thing for him. Antonio Davis was definitely the least shy person there about shooting. He went 8 of 19 for 26 points. 17 of his 19 shots were 3-pointers. He made 8 of them, so that's almost 50%. That's awesome. He showed the ability to step back and make all kinds of shots off the dribble, which we've seen over the last 5 years. The only problem was, unlike Kendrick Davis, Antonio Davis didn't do much in terms of passing. He had 4 assists, 4 turnovers, and that may have been the difference why Kendrick Davis got an invite to the Combine. Antonio Davis didn't. All right, so the player who impressed me the most was Zyon Pullin. Now, I have watched the Overtime Elite guys a fair amount now at this point. And the one thing about Gortman was I didn't see anything terribly bad about his shot, but his misses sometimes were just really, really bad from deep. He is athletic. He can get to his spots. He can step back from deep. He can pull up from the mid-range. He gets to his spots. He makes impressive athletic plays. And his reach is unbelievable, which we will get to in a little bit. This is a guy, you don't see this often, even in, you don't see it much. How many times do you see a 3-point shot get blocked, from a guard to a guard? I saw him do that it may have been Antonio Davis. I'm not sure, but they were similar sized guards and he just swatted it out of the air. Super impressed by him. And here's one interesting thing. I'm going to go over some Overtime Elite stats. Obviously, we will talk more about the Thompson twins in the future, but when you compare Gortman to the Thompson twins, he was the best three-point shooter of the bunch during overtime elite play, and that is not saying much. Amen Thompson, 25% from deep. Asir Thompson, 30% from deep. And Gortman was 33. The difference is Gortman took about 5 threes a game. Asir took about 4, and Amen took 3 a game. Where Gortman was really effective this year was field goal percentage. Now, of course, this is overtime elite play, so we're talking about professional high schoolers basically. But he was 45% from the floor, and this was the encouraging stat, was 81% from the foul line. He also averaged 2.5 steals per game with that nice long reach of his. But the shooting and turnovers, he was high on turnovers. So he was like 4 turnovers a game, or 3 turnovers a game, and 4 assists per game. So it's actually a little worse than that. So you'd like to see that better. And I didn't see a ton of playmaking from him at the G League Elite Camp, but I saw everything else. He was 2 from 5 from deep. His shot looked good, and I think the not only his age, he just turned 20. I think it's pretty obvious why he got invited to the combine. Jury's still out on his shot, but we know players can improve their shot. So, and as I said, when I watched him at Elite, shot didn't look bad. It's just the misses sometimes. I mean, we're talking about like they don't even hit the box. They hit the backboard, but they're just getting a piece of the box. So yeah. All right. So we'll move on. Poor performers. And there were just as many poor performers, or I would say disappointing performers, guys that we would have maybe expected to do better than they did. There were more. There was probably a handful more than I have on this list, but I didn't think they were really worth talking about. The guys I put up here were guys I thought were worth talking about. But again, I'll start off with you, Booney. What players were you like? And I should add, before we go on, we're talking about 2 games. So anybody can have 2 bad games in a row. Michael Jordan could have 2 bad games in a row. It's so you can only put so much stock in his performance. But we're just saying these are the guys who didn't play well on court. And Booney, I'm going to start with you. Who did you expect to see more from and didn't?
Tavion Kinsey. Tavion Kinsey didn't miss a shot during the tournament. He went 3 for 3 from the floor, 2 of 2 and 1 of 1.
Yeah.
I thought he was just going to bring a lot more, man. He was not present. I thought Tyler Burton was going to bring a little bit more. Same type of deal, just never seemed comfortable out there. Matthew Mayer showed signs in the first game, and I was very intrigued and excited by that because I like his frame. I like his length. I like how fast he gets off his shot, but he just did not back that up. The second game was nowhere whatsoever to be found. Marquise Noel, now 4 of 16, sure, I get it. He didn't shoot great. He did have 13 assists. He had 5 turnovers in one game, but if you watch, there was a sequence when I believe him and Davis went back and forth and lost the ball in about 3 consecutive possessions. That gave him about 2 or 3 turnovers. So I actually liked Marquise Noel. I thought he did enough for me to get an invite because every time he was on the floor, he had an impact. He was completely changing the game, whether he went to the hole, coming off a pick, and shooting the ball. So I did like him a lot more than I thought his numbers represented. But I would say, the biggest disappointment obviously was for me, which I expected something and looking for, was Burton and Tyler Burton and Tavion Kinsey. Hunter Tyson, when I first saw him the first game, he got to the spot, he got where he wanted, just didn't knock down shots, and he was a lot less assertive the second game. but it looked like a completely different Hunter Tyson than I saw at Clemson.
Right. Now, Hunter Tyson did really well at Portsmouth. So, I mean, obviously higher caliber players here. But yeah, I thought Tyson was so, overall at this event. But still love his game. We talked about him a lot this season about how we liked him. So, yeah.
I'm glad he got the invite though. I'm glad
yeah. So Jake, how about you? Who disappointed you out there?
So Tyler Burton was definitely up there. Mike Sherrod-Jobs has to be a guy for me. I still am kind of scratching my head as to why he decided to declare. I just think he's so raw.
Yeah.
And he still had so much to put together and show you in a bigger sample size where he played more at Dayton to where I don't really know. It's not a bad thing. I mean, he's in the portal. He can come back to school, which I guess he'll do. It's not, this process, I guess, can't hurt you necessarily, but his whole decision just to come here, I thought was a bit puzzling. And then you see he did not score any points, had 8 boards and 5 assists. I guess the appeal is, as a bit of a bigger guard, has a high IQ, can pass it a little bit. And if you watched him play at Dayton, you did see that. You saw him make some very, very good passes where he was a step or two ahead of defense. But I would advise him to come back to school, stay at Dayton, or go somewhere you can play. Because this performances like this aren't going to warrant you getting picked or anywhere near it.
Right. And that's usually I would say if someone asked me, should I go? Should I put my name in the draft? And I would probably say, well, it can't hurt. You can do it 3 times. The 3rd time you have to go into the draft. At least you'll get some feedback. But with him, I wouldn't even been thinking that way. And you asked me, we were talking privately, how did Mongolian Mike get invited to, G League Elite camp? And I said novelty. And I don't know if you noticed, but the first game when they polled the fans about who they wanted to see interviewed at halftime, who was it? Mongolian Mike. He's a novelty. That's why he was there. But I really think him looking so out of place, hurts him. It hurts him. You can be hurt by this process. And yeah, I don't think he should have been there. I think he's getting really bad advice.
Yeah, agree.
So, anybody else, or was that
Tyler Burton too? I mean, these A10 guys I'll watch a lot just because they'll play St. Joe's and LaSalle. And I love his game. I thought that he could have left after they made the tournament and upset Iowa. I thought he could have left and easily could have transferred up somewhere. And I don't know if he can now. I don't know if he has the option to come back to school now. I know he has a
it depends on who he signed with in terms of agent. He has another year if he wants it.
Yeah, he's got another year because I would like to see him jump up in competition. I would like to see what he can do over a full season because if you watch him play, he's a forward with that wingspan, the size, the athleticism, the shooting ability that he has. It's almost too good for the A10. He can definitely play Power 5.
Right. He and Jalen Slauson remind me of Furman, remind me a lot of each other in what they can do on the court. But I just think Slauson is probably a little better defender, probably a little better athlete. We'll find out soon because he's going to be at the combine. But the guy I'm going to start with is Joey Hauser. Now, the one thing about Sam that Joey clearly doesn't have, Joey's a little bigger, probably a little stronger, but I don't think he's as athletic as Sam. Joey, of course, is 1 year younger. But the one thing that has plagued Joey throughout his career is he seems to lose his confidence and he won't shoot. Or if he does shoot, he puts up bricks and he'll go through these stretches where he can't buy a basket. And then he'll go through these stretches where he can't miss. Well, he was in one of those stretches where he couldn't buy one this weekend. 2 of 10 from the field, 2 of 8 from 3, total of 6 points. I just don't, I thought Joey had a legitimate chance because Sam, has made it on the Celtics. He's like their 10th man. But I don't know. Joey also didn't test out well athletically. So Marquise Noel, I'll tell you what, in box score plus minus, I don't know for a fact, but I would guess he probably may have had the worst in the tournament. It just seemed like his team fell apart when he was on the court. Could have been just coincidence, but that's how it worked out. Josiah Jordan James didn't do bad. 5 of 10 from the field, 13 points, 3 of 6 from 3 is great for him. But again, he was kind of quiet, and that's what we've always seen from him. Kind of quiet, good defender. So I don't think he was hurt by this. I don't think he was tremendously helped. Caleb McConnell, he's never been a great shooter and always been a great defender. And that's what we saw again. 2 of 13 from the field, 0 of 3 from deep, only 5 points. Caleb just didn't come through. Isaiah Stevens had a nightmare of a weekend. 3 of 14 from the field, 0 of 3 from deep.
He looked slow. You're right.
It's funny though, I was worried about his athleticism coming in this event, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but he tested out pretty nicely. But on the court, he always often looked slow, but I always thought he was one of those guys that played at his own pace, kind of like Ovuma of Princeton. But he was minus 25 in the box score. Yeah. Mark Sears of Alabama wasn't bad. 6 of 17 from the field, a little more than 33%. He had 8 assists, 4 turnovers, but again, I think he should go back to school. And Tyler Burton really, not only did he go 2 of 9, but he had in 2 games, only had 1 assist, 0 steals, 0 blocks, 6 turnovers. He looked like a freshman out there, and looked kind of overwhelmed, and he was there last year. So I think Tyler it was really surprising to me that he looked so, I don't know, out of his depth. All right. So if we move on to the athletic testing, I sent this stuff to you guys. I don't know if you guys looked it over much, but I'm just going to go over some of the better performers in the athletic testing. First of all, we have a rating scale where we basically rate these guys based on how they perform in the 4 major areas. The lane drill and the shuttle drill would be 2 of them. They test your ability to move sideways, backwards, and forwards. Quickness. They're basically quickness tests. The sprint, of course, speed, then standing and max vertical. And the 5 guys that were the biggest standouts at this event in order were Matt Morrell, Marquise Noel, Isaiah Stevens, which again surprised me because when you watch him at Colorado State, he looks a step slow for a point guard. And as Booney said, he looked a step slow out there on the court this weekend. Maybe having the basketball in his hands, some players can't do the same. They can run fast without the basketball, but you put the basketball in their hands, and that just does it not the same. Gortman, again, he was number 4, and number 5, Emmanuel Miller, Leonard Miller's older brother. Of course, Fanta called him his younger brother. But anyway, he's his older brother from TCU, and he was he's a forward, and so he was the one of the top 5, was the only forward in the group. And if you want to look for the most athletic big, you would go all the way down to Cliff Amore of Rutgers, who stood out, especially in terms of standing vertical, and also he measured with a 7'6" wingspan and a differential of 9.25 between his height of 6'10" and, well, I'm adding an inch for shoes, but he measured 6'9" without shoes. But some of the more interesting numbers, and I won't dwell on this too long, but I just want to tell you some, like the guys who tested out best in quickness. And I'm looking at like who was like really good in both lane and shuttle. That was Morrell, that was Stevens, and that was McConnell, Caleb McConnell, who we talked about as a great defender. And of course, one of the things you need to be a great defender is quickness and the ability to change direction quickly. That's what those drills measure. In terms of pure speed, the best were Morrell, Noel, Alex Fudge may have been the fastest. Yeah, I think Alex Fudge was the fastest. Drew Peterson ran a 3.17, which put him in the 78th percentile in our database, which goes all the way back to 2016. So, like as I said, Drew has sneaky athleticism. In terms of standing vertical, which is more important than the number that's often quoted, which is max vertical, you have much more opportunity to jump standing, or much more of a need to jump while standing as opposed to running and doing a spectacular dunk. So, and the best standing verticals were Morrell, again, Emmanuel Miller, and Leaky Black. And lastly, max vertical, Morrell posted a 41.5, which put him in the 95th percentile in our database. Marquise Noel was 39, and Gortman was 38.5. Lastly, Gortman, he only measures 6'1" without shoes. His wingspan is 6'10". It's +9. It's +9. Yeah, so Gortman, +9, which is out of this world. And you throw that in with his athleticism. That's why, and his solid play on the court with that athleticism, showed. That's why I think he was one of the biggest winners at the event. Other good wingspans, Kinsey was 6.75. I'm going from their height, the difference between their height and their wingspan. Dylan Jones was plus 6.5. As I said, Amore was 9.25, which is even longer. Yeah, Castleton had almost a 7.4 wingspan. Charles Bediaco had a 7.3 wingspan. I will say, by the way, if for those who are into numbers and keeping track of all this stuff, I'm going all the way back to Pitt, but when I put all these numbers in the database, I noticed that Pitt had Jake Stevens measuring. Jake Stevens, who was on the show from Chattanooga, they had him measuring with a wingspan of 7 feet 9.5 inches. I would give him almost a +11 wingspan because Jake is 6'11" without shoes. So he's almost 7-footer, but I don't think he has a +9.5 wingspan, or actually in this case, it'd almost be +11. I think it's more likely his wingspan is like 6'10" as opposed to 7'10". But if I get a chance to talk to Jake, I will ask him. And yeah, so that's it for all the measurements and everything. You guys have any comments there about those numbers?
Yeah, it's interesting. The one guy also that I expected to see a little bit more of, and I thought he was going to be as assertive, and if he was as assertive as Antoine Davis was, Morrell, and he just wasn't. So it was interesting to see how well he tested, because I was expecting to see a lot more of him from the court, and he just did not have that assertiveness to score the ball when he did touch it. So it's interesting.
Yeah, Morrell's coming off a rough year. There hasn't been really any stability at Ole Miss for a while. I actually talked to their SID a little bit today because we're going to talk about another situation at Ole Miss. And I wanted to see if I get any feedback there, but apparently Matt has not made up his mind whether he's staying in the draft or not. But I would think after not getting, despite the impressive athletic testing, he still didn't get an invite. He's coming off a disappointing year. I would expect him to be back at Ole Miss and see what he can do under Chris Beard.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
Nice team.
Guys off the charts athletically. But yeah, I would definitely go back and play for Chris Beard, get a full year under a good defensive coach. Yeah, I mean, Rich, you're right with the no stability. Kermit Davis, they got after getting smoked by Oklahoma in his first year. It just never kind of fell. Or in 2019, that just kind of never, didn't really pan out the way it was supposed to. So
Yeah.
it's got all the measurables, but you got to prove it on the court. And if it didn't happen now, I would go back to school.
Yeah. And he's still young, he's got plenty of time. So no worries there. Go polish your game. You got the athleticism. They love that part. So just polish your game. You got a great coach. Should be good to go in a year or two. I did want to mention that the guys who didn't do well, I'm not going to go into specific details for all of them, but I just want to mention in the testing departments, in terms of speed, quickness, ability to jump, going from worst to better. Antoine Watson, Hakeem Hart, Jalen Bridges, Josiah Jordan James, Charles Bediako, and Norchad Omir. Most of those guys, I wouldn't have expected them to test out poorly, but they did. Bediako would probably be the exception because he's, almost 7 feet, 225 pounds. But the rest are forwards, wing types. So that was surprising. Omir, too, measured only without shoes, 6'5.5", and he's playing center at college ball. He did have a 6'11" wingspan. And I will say, of those 6 guys I mentioned, all of them had at least a 6'10" wingspan. In terms of guards, no real big names tested out poorly. Spencer Rogers and Janelle Davis were probably the worst. They did below average for any type of player, and certainly in our rating system, you want to be at least, if you're a guard, you want to be at least at the 50th percentile, and these guys were in the 30s. So ultimately, who got invited to the NBA Combine, which again is taking place right now, was Janiah Broom, Kendrick Davis, Tosan Awoma, Jay Gortman, PJ Hall, Dylan Jones, Serge Jabari Rice, and Hunter Tyson. Now, one thing I will say about these guys, we talked about the top performers, and most of these guys were in that area, that we as we just got done talking about. I'd say Awoma really wasn't overly impressive. Hall had one really good day and one really bad day. Hunter Tyson was okay. He and Rice get the Triple Crown this year for going to Portsmouth, G League Elite Camp, and the NBA Combine. I think Tyson got in there because of his stronger performance at Portsmouth and an excellent senior season. So I think the guy who's helped himself the most might be the most likely to be drafted out of this group is Gortman, just because of his age, potential. One thing I will say about most of these guys, none of them, for the most part, have competed for a long time at a high level. Broom only had 1 year at Auburn. Kendrick Davis was in the American Conference, which is questionable competition-wise. Awoma played at Princeton. Gortman played at Overtime Elite. So obviously the competition is very questionable there. Hall has been, bothered by injuries for 2 seasons. Jones played at Weber State. Rice, played at New Mexico State until this year, and he was the 6th man. And then, of course, Tyson really kind of exploded this year. So I would say all these guys, NBA teams, basically they get together, every team gets to vote, pick some players. And I think this group, one thing is, obviously NBA teams want to get a longer look at these guys. And if you look at them, there were other guys that, maybe played as well, if not better. They didn't, but the NBA teams have seen them for 3, 4, 5 years against high competition. So, all right. So on to the rest of the college notebook, and we'll get into our usual stuff like the portal and stuff like that. I think the portal topped off at 1755, but we had an interesting one today. Zyon Pullin, a first-team All-Big West selection, who was an early entry into the NBA draft, put his name in the portal today. Now, we talked about why does they have the deadline, and what we assumed was you had to sit out a year if you didn't get your name in there before the deadline and didn't have a really good excuse. So anybody have any comments about what Zyon, did I say Zach? I meant Zyon. Zyon Pullin is doing at UC Riverside? Obviously, he's leaving UC Riverside, but is he going to have to sit out a year, or have we heard anything about this? This is this came up today.
Yeah, this is news to me. I don't know much about this one.
Yeah, I have to follow up because when that deadline passed, I thought that was it. And I know guys are going to have to get a waiver, or two-time guys are going to have to get a waiver anyway, regardless if they do it before or after. So I'll have to monitor this and see what happens. But yeah, I saw a couple guys enter the portal.
Yeah, but he was the most significant. And
well, I don't know. Caleb Love put his name in. Did you guys see that? He decommitted it. He decommitted. I put it. Yeah, he decommitted.
Are you kidding me?
I did not see that.
Well, he might be all right though. He might be all right because he was already in it.
Oh, so let me read you what Norlander tweeted out because it said he decommitted, but then apparently his credits did not transfer over. So Love did not have the subsequent credits to transfer in, and returning to North Carolina is not on the table for him.
Yeah.
More context. Michigan's lofty admission standards for a transfer mean the higher bar needs to be cleared for most all credits from a prior school to carry over. At Michigan, the more credits there are to bring over, the less likely they all get kept, depending on your transcript.
Hey, he should be able to fit right in at Alabama.
Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Joel Eastern try and do this too and get rejected?
Oh no, Joel Eastern jumped all over the place. He was in the draft every year. I don't remember.
I swear I heard this from somebody else.
That guy had jumping. What do they call them? Those jumping beans or whatever in his pants. He was just all over the place. Never seen anything like it. And every year he put his name in the not only in the portal, but he put his name in the NBA draft. And the guy couldn't even make a foul shot.
Yeah, his shooting was bad. Yeah, here you go. Purdue transfer Joel Eastern will not join Michigan basketball as reopening his recruitment, unable to enroll at the school.
Wow.
So, not the first time.
Right.
Not the first time.
That's kind of surprising though, coming from Purdue, because Purdue, was he coming from Purdue at that point?
Yeah.
Well, Purdue's a good school as well. I mean,
yeah.
they're no slouch.
I don't know how that works, but I think also Caleb Love enrolled there under the impression that he was going to be able to play with Hunter Dickinson, and then when that didn't happen, I feel like that would have had to play a part. I also want to point out that on March 4th, so literally not even 2 weeks from the time is being recorded, somebody said, "Will Caleb Love play for Michigan at all next year? Stay tuned." When Dickinson committed or was kind of filling out schools, he said, "Yes, I will play for Michigan next year. Stay tuned. Go Blue."
Huh. Not
happening.
Right.
That's surprising.
So somebody theorizes then that it's because not so much because his credits didn't transfer, but perhaps because he's not happy with Dickinson leaving. That's interesting.
Well, I think it could be a little bit of both, but regardless, your credits are transfer, and it doesn't matter if you have an all-star team there, you're not going.
Right. Interesting.
So, Dickinson was already in the portal though by the time he transferred, but I don't know.
Yeah, but I think there might have been some talks about. I think that he was keeping Michigan open, and then it was reported that he wasn't. or something along those lines. I think he kept Michigan open for a little bit before officially deciding, like, no, these are the final 4 or 5.
All right. All right. So in my discussions with Ole Miss today, I asked them, what the hell is going on over there? Because Musa Cisse, one of the best shot blockers in the country, just committed to them, but that was just only not even a week after Jamarian Sharp, an even better shot blocker than Cisse, transferred in. They're both really big guys. I mean, Sharp is, I think, 7'4", 7'5". Cisse is a legit 7-footer. Cisse to me is a much better player and has legitimate chance at making in the NBA. I can't say the same about Sharp, but to me, this relegates. And this, my question to Ole Miss was, doesn't this relegate Sharp to the bench? I mean, he can't be happy about that. And why would Cisse come in when he might have to share a lot of minutes with somebody, but they just wouldn't answer? So, Jake, what do you think's going on here?
It's tough. I didn't think Cisse would go there. I think TCU might have reached out to him, but look, I mean, you're going to play for a really good defensive head coach in Chris Beard, who would say what you want about him, but X and O's wise is defense. Like, he's coached some very, very good defensive teams. Good luck trying to score in the paint, because you can't play these guys together. That's for sure. They're just going to clog up the lane, and they're guys that really aren't going to.
Yeah, neither can shoot.
Yeah, especially with both of them, but Cisse especially, like, you don't really want him touching the ball like outside the paint. You want him to be a lob threading guy that's going to catch dump off passes, clean up misses. But and then but you don't have to deal with Musa Cisse. You have to deal with the guy who, as far as I know, even if Edey comes back, is still going to be the tallest guy in college basketball at 7'5" and Jamarian Sharp. So good luck trying to score on the rim. They got 2 huge bodies. 2 of the top 10 last year in block percentage, with Jamarian Sharp being 16.5%. And then Cisse last year, almost 2 blocks a game, had a career high 62 in total to go along with almost 7 points and 8 rebounds. So 2 really big bodies to patrol the paint while Chris Beard kind of figures out the rest of the perimeter. I know Jamin Brakefield.
I just don't know how they can be happy together. And I mean, I know Purdue has made it work, but Purdue didn't artificially create the situation. It just happened that, they had multiple bigs that they recruited that kind of, matured at roughly the same time. And so they had to come up with some kind of, solution. But in this case, this situation was manufactured. And the only thing I can think of is Cisse has been somewhat injury prone. And maybe he knows this way, I don't have to play 35 minutes a night. I can play 25 minutes a night, and Sharp can play 15, and we'll be good to go. But I can't believe Sharp is going to be happy playing 15.
Right. Yeah, the minutes are going to be staggered. If a guy, maybe a guy gets in foul trouble and one of these guys has to see extended minutes, they can also let them play a little bit more freely. And maybe not have to be as careful and play on eggshells
with
the fouls. So it'd be interesting to see. But look, as far as strictly looking at the numbers and knowing these games and what these guys can do, good luck scoring in the paint. They're going to block a ton of shots.
All right, we need a theme song for our weekly St. John's update. Here it is. Jake, give us our weekly St. John's update.
So, to pretty much complete, for the most part, Rick Pitino's transfer haul. He kept 2 guys at St. John's. He kept Drisa Traore, who I believe sat out a redshirt last year, and he kept, of course, Joel Soriano, led D1 in double-doubles. Very, very good player. He added Zuby Ejiofor from Kansas, who Villanova brought on campus, who was sought after, just as Ernest Uday is, who's hopefully going to commit any day now. But the last piece to the St. John's puzzle this year was a backup center. Rick Pitino now has that in Zuby Ejiofor, big guy who's gonna, is a lob threat to pick and roll, a big body to set screens, rebound a little bit. Didn't play a ton at Kansas. Obviously, we talked about him having to play behind an Ernest Uday. He did get some minutes, but he gets in there.
He's a top 60 recruit. Something Sirianno can't say. So
the talent's there. He just didn't get to play a ton, and he's going to go to a situation still in a damn good conference, get the backup and practice against one of the best centers in the country in Joel Soriano, and give Pitino a younger guy who he can who he can build with at the center position. So I believe that makes 11 transfers for Rick Pitino, or 11 new players if you throw in Brady Dunlap coming in from Harvard Westlake as a top 100 guy next year. But totally new team.
Right.
But the last piece was a backup big, and that's been solved. It looks like the Donnies have their roster set for next year.
All righty. So we can't go a week without talking about good old Alabama. And the guy who got kicked off was only on campus maybe a month. Got kicked off, was arrested with guns and marijuana, and that's Jaquan Walton, who was at Wichita State. Solid player. He was a top 100 recruit when he went to Wichita State. But Alabama subsequently, after he was arrested, very swiftly said he was no longer part of the team. So now he lands at UCF, which is really looking like they're going to take their lumps in the first year in the Big 12 with Walton or without. Anybody got any comments about this?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like, Johnny Dawkins needs some players, which is a shame, because I really like Johnny Dawkins. I think he's a damn good coach, but losing Taylor Hendricks, lost Lahatun, lost Brandon Suggs and some other guys that they have. Believe it was Brandon Suggs that transferred among other guys that are graduating, leaving, of that nature. Missed out on Caleb Battle, had him on his radar. Just hasn't brought in a ton of impact guys. And hey, not only are you joining the Big 12, but that means you're going to have to play Houston. That means you're going to have to play Cincinnati, who I think is going to be a lot better this year. So they're going to be towards the bottom, unfortunately, in the Big 12. I don't know what his recruiting class looks like, but the transfer class hasn't been there. And I think this is just a move that it's like, hey, if his, whatever charges against him, or if they're not that bad, like we can afford to take him on here. I think that's what it was. Get a pretty solid, productive player that he saw at Wichita State in the AAC.
Well, based on Alabama law, as well as I know it, he's probably not going to get in much trouble for the gun, because you don't need, to my knowledge, you don't need a license or anything like that. You just need to be like 18, I believe. So I would assume, I guess he was, as ironic as this sounds, I guess he was really in trouble with the police for the marijuana. So somehow having marijuana is worse in Alabama than having a gun. But yeah, can't make much sense of that. All right, so Jake, I'm gonna let you run with these last few guys. I'm not overly familiar with them. They're not big draft radar guys, so I know you wanted to talk about a few other guys that made up their minds of where they're going.
Yeah, so the first is Naeem McLeod. He was at Florida State. And he went to Plymouth White Marsh High School, which is where my mom and my uncles went. It's about 20 minutes down the road from me. Really, really good high school program in this area. They had Xavier Malone, who played at Rider and Oregon State. John Salmons went there. CJ Aiken, who was I believe is the number one pick in a G League draft. Or I think it was still called the D League, was a St. Joe's guy. But really, really good program under Jim D'Onofrio at Plymouth White Marsh. But he's guy's 7'4". It's huge. I saw him tour in LaSalle one time, and I mean, the guy was just like a foot taller than everybody. He's huge. So he's going to give Syracuse a big, to kind of replace Jesse Edwards with. Only problem is it's not great defending pick and rolls last year, which makes you think.
Does this mean Syracuse is going to sit in that zone for? It would look that way, huh?
I think we're bound to see a little bit of zone, because guess what?
I think we're going to see a lot of zone.
If you want to run that zone, then you got 7'4" Naeem McLeod to sit in the middle of the paint and dare you to come in there and try and score on him. So good for him that he was able to a lot of in their ACC transfers, by the way, a ton of them. I think the most of any conference. I think there's 11 or 12 that transferred in conference, but he's going to go up to Syracuse, and if he's not going to defend screens well, maybe lineups where he's not on the floor, they can decide to play man. But certainly when he's on the floor, I think Syracuse is definitely a candidate to go and keep that zone for sure. Next guy up here, Micah Adams-Woods. He did 4 years at Cincinnati. He'll be going to St. Bonaventure, who quietly, I think, is putting together a nice offseason for themselves. So he's from Syracuse, New York. We have to play a little bit closer to home. Almost 37% from three last year. Career high 9.1 points. Not a huge score, but also remember, he's transferring down from the AAC to the Atlantic 10.
Right.
And I like the group of guards that they have now from Mark Schmidt. He's got Micah Adams-Woods, got Darrell Banks, who was awesome last year, was the leading scorer. Moses Flowers, who was a Hartford recently. Kyrell Luke, who came in from Holy Cross last year, a small, really fast and quick guard. And then he's got a big-time scorer in Chuck Pride from Bryant. So like the depth on the perimeter, that's something that they lacked last year with scoring. I feel like Mark Schmidt's done a really, really good job with that. And I think the Bonnies could surge a little bit here. They got another big man in Noel Brown from DW to go along with Chad Benning, who they brought in last year. See, to completely remake the roster last year. It was a ton of different new players. There's his Iron Man 5 scholarship guys left. So yeah, those guys. So I think played 2 straight years, were like top 5 all time in most minutes played by starting lineups. It's crazy. And then the last guy, I've talked at length that I love the Ryan Odom to VCU hire. One of my favorites of the entire offseason. Brings in Kwani from California. Big forward who shot it a little bit. Now, he didn't shoot the ball great, but guess what? That California team, there's not much that they did well.
Right.
He was a really, really bad team last year, but showed the ability to step out and hit some threes. A big guy who can also catch the ball and handle it a bit on the perimeter. Not as a point guard, but a fake, straight line drive. Can do some good things off the perimeter. And I think he'll do a lot better going down from the Pac-12 to the A-10 and playing a role for Ryan Odom's offense to give their offense a little bit more space. So I like the move of a guy moving down. I think he'll be more productive in the Atlantic 10. And I'm continued to be impressed by the offseason that Ryan Odom's having.
Right. Are you familiar with Kwani's game, Booney?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of how Jake described. He shot 36% from the floor last year. I mean, 30% from three. Athletic, jumper, about 4 rebounds a game. I think it's a good fit for him at VCU, and I think he's going to really be able to show his talent and ability. The real good when you're looking at his stats. What's really intriguing is he shot close to 85% from the free throw line, right? So he can shoot it a little bit.
And he's 6 foot, and he's 6'9". So
yeah, and whether that develops into a jumper or not at VCU, I definitely think the change was needed. So yeah, I think that's a good pickup for VCU, and I'm right there with Jake on that one.
At worst, a nice guy to be coming off your bench, I would think.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to other news, Pelle Larsson announced recently that he's exiting the draft and coming back to Arizona, so that's good news for the Wildcats. And Jeremy Roach of Duke did the same thing. I think good moves by both players. I don't think they were going to get drafted, and I think they'll enjoy this year a lot more maybe than last year. Roach had some injury problems. Of course, he's going to have to deal with a bunch of new faces again, which has to be annoying. To have to acclimate yourself as a point guard, especially, you got to acclimate yourself to their games. But Larson, should fit right back in. We still don't know what Tubelis is doing. I have a feeling Tubelis is going to come out. Come back, not come out. So there we go. So some more things. Jake, I'm going to let you run with these last few, starting with Coach K was named special advisor. the NBA operations, one thing I mentioned to Jake lately is I see all these Duke guys, and I can't name them off of my head, but they're either getting promoted to general managers' jobs or assistant general managers' jobs, or even JJ Redick is being considered as a head coach, and I think for the Raptors. But now Coach K is got a new job. I'm not sure why or what. Maybe you can explain that, Jake. The question is, will his hair still be jet black when he's 99 years old?
Quick question for both of you before Jake gets on Coach K. Did it bother you guys at all? First of all, I've always been a real big Duke guy. Last couple of years of Coach K's career, I started to tune off to him a little bit. And I really got tuned off to him last year while attending only one Duke game, one or two, and never really coming out and speaking in support for Shai. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not, but
yeah, I heard they were in constant communication.
Okay.
I think he didn't want to
take away from the
Yeah, I don't think he wanted to, yeah. I think he handled that. I know what you're saying, but
and again, I'm just speculating.
I'm pretty sure. I think I heard somebody say at some point that they had like lunch together every day or something like that.
Okay.
So I think they're fine. Person who I know who's probably still really mad is Tommy Amaker, who really didn't get a lot of traction for a job. I mean, I know Harvard's been down the last couple of years, but before that, Amaker had them on a roll and was getting some big name players at a school that's almost impossible to recruit big name players at.
Before too,
yeah. So, what do you make about this Coach K thing? Why is he doing this? What's he doing?
I don't know. I thought he would just be retired like Jay. And this is nothing against Coach K. I just thought he would have retired and been like, hey, if I can still be around Duke. I can still go to NBA games and watch my former players play, or if they coach or they're on a staff somewhere and do that. But yeah, he's moving into this role as a special advisor to basketball operations. Was at the lottery. He'll be at, I'm sure he was at the G League Combine. He'll be at the NBA Combine. Just going to provide counsel to league office members, team executives, other people around the league. Obviously, a guy that's super connected in the basketball world and even up to the NBA with all the guys he's put in there. I'm sure he has great relationships with a ton of these people who he'll be offering counsel to. But also, obviously, he's worked with Team USA as well. So a guy that is, on the kind of like the upper echelon of the basketball industry, Hall of Famer, obviously the most wins of all time, super successful. I don't really know why he's doing this, to be honest with you. Just thought he'd kind of ride off into the sunset and do what he wanted, but seems like he still has at least a bit of a burning passion to stay around basketball, and he's going to do that in the NBA. Next, we talked a lot about St. John's. We're going to talk about Mike Anderson's name for the first time in probably over a month. He is suing St. John's for nearly $46 million, alleging he was fired for false claims. He alleged he was fired so that St. John's did not have to pay him a buyout and instead used that money to hire Rick Pitino. ESPN's Myron Medcalf reported that the termination letter filed by St. John's accused Anderson of failure to create and support an environment that strongly encourages student athletes who are in the men's basketball program to meet all university academic requirements. Failure to perform your duties and responsibilities in a manner reflected positively on St. John's University and actions that brought serious discredit to the school, and failure to appropriately supervise and communicate with your assistant coaches. He claims that this is all just a sham so that he wasn't owed $11.4 million remaining on his deal. They would have to buy him out. He's also adding over $34 million in punitive damages for this. In my opinion, just pay Mike Anderson his money. Why'd you have to do this? Just pay him his money. It's worth it. You're going to win. You're going to make money. It's worth it. Yeah. Don't do this to him.
Yeah. The 34 million in punitive seems out of control, but the first thing that comes to my mind when I read that statement by the ESPN, I think of Andre Curbelo.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there this year. First I heard he was leaving the team. Then I heard he was suspended. Then I heard he was hurt. I really never knew what happened at the end of the season there where he didn't play. Andre Curbelo is an emotional player. He hasn't really seemed to find a home yet. He seems to be impetuous on the court and perhaps off the court. I can remember one game where St. John's was getting blown out and he was laughing with the other team. And I was thinking, if I'm coaching that guy, he's walking home. He's not getting on the bus. There's no laughing when they were losing like by 30 points. And they looked like they just didn't care. And then him laughing with the opposing team, just I was like, wow. And Curbelo's still in the portal. We're talking about a very talented player who could play point guard. If he could play under control, could play point guard for probably any school in the country. But I agree. Yeah, it's paying the money. Why have this hanging over your head? Maybe, I don't know, maybe they want to come to a settlement. Maybe there's some legitimacy to what they're saying. I mean, obviously the team did not perform on the court and definitely underachieved. And
to add on that, you're absolutely right about Curbelo getting suspended. Also, Rafael Pinzone was also suspended for a couple games. He transferred to Bryant pretty early in the portal period. But they had a couple guys that served suspensions. It got to the point where Curbelo didn't even, while he was suspended, there was some away games he didn't even travel for. So I don't know what that was. It seemed like St. John's was kind of hush about it, and they didn't want to go into detail about it. But just pay Mike Anderson his money. You're gonna win under Rick Pitino. He's gonna make you money. You're gonna win. It'll be worth it. Just pay him his buyout.
Yeah.
And then two more things here. This was announced last week or the week before. The Dolphins of Lemoyne College are transferring from D1 to D2. As far as I know, they're the first one this year. They're going to be joining the NEC just as Stonehill did last year.
But which means they won't be eligible for March Madness until 30 years from now?
Yeah, which is great because guess what? Merrimack is now eligible, and now we have another team that's going to have to serve a 4-year period. So
that's ridiculous. Get rid of that rule.
Is that how it works? So once someone comes in, the other team's eligible?
No, it's just like Merrimack's 4 years are over starting next year.
Oh, it is. Okay, I got you.
Their transition period is over beginning this season. They're now eligible for tournaments.
It's such a brutal rule.
It is. NCAA, if you don't change that rule, I'm going to KP you to death.
Yeah.
They're the worst. I don't know why they do it. They should have let Bellarmine in the tournament 2 years ago, and they didn't want to do that. And Jacksonville State didn't even make the ASUN championship. Got in. It's a mess. I hate the rule, but when college is transferring up, they're going to join the NEC. So them in Stonehill. I wonder what happens if we have a Stonehill Lemoyne NEC championship game. Then what happens?
Yeah, no kidding.
I wonder what we does third place make it? Is there like a consolation game?
I guess it would be.
Does the third place game turn into
I don't know why they don't change this rule.
Yeah.
I can understand maybe 1 year. 1 year. Yeah. That's enough.
If you, in my opinion, if you move up from D1 to D2, you're immediately eligible. If you move down from D2 to D1
right.
And you should have to serve 4 years.
Right, because you might end up winning the national championship.
Yeah, you're going to have superior, probably facilities, all that to everybody else.
Good point.
So if you move down, you have a grace period. You move up, you're good.
Yeah.
Now you guys just lit a fire in me for a rooting interest of a Lemoyne Stonehill NEC championship. We're going to root for that next year.
I hear you, Jake.
Couple fun facts about Lemoyne. So they're in Syracuse, New York. John Beeline coached there from 1983 to 1992. And later his son Patrick coached there pretty recently from 2015 to 2019. Dave Paulson, currently the head coach of Holy Cross, coached there from 1997 to 2000. Couple famous alumni for you. Disgraced MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred that nobody seems to like. And Neil Olshey, the Trailblazers president of basketball ops and general manager. And a little fun fact, In 2009, they beat Syracuse at the Carrier Dome in an exhibition game on a team that featured Chris Joseph, Indy Routins, and Wesley Johnson.
Wesley Johnson was a top 10 NBA pick, I believe, at least a lot.
He was four. I think he was a fourth overall, I want to say.
I was thinking ninth, but
quite in the top five. He was lottery big time regardless. And then another, I already have Caleb Love on here that we talked about, but literally within the last 2.5 hours, Kelvin Sampson interviewed for the Bucks head coaching vacancy. He hasn't coached in the NBA since he was an assistant with the Rockets before he took the Houston job that he's at now.
I don't see that working.
I don't either. Yeah, like they got a practice facility. They have a nice arena. Like everything that he wanted when he got there, he has. He's
but his son could take over for him. His son could take over for him, but I just don't see him tolerating the NBA. I mean, he's just such a stickler.
No.
And the NBA guys just do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
You can tolerate that contract.
You get to move up to the Big 12 too. You're going to play now in a true Power 5 conference. I don't see why.
That could be a reason to get the hell out of Dodge, because maybe he won't be a top 10 team anymore.
Yeah, maybe. I still think they'll be good. But hey, you have all the bells and whistles, and you're a damn good coach to compete in the Big 12. This is where he'll turn it on and get a national championship team. Now he's not in the AAC, he's in the Big 12. Like I don't want him to take this job. Stay and build yourself a national champion that we know we can get.
I think he would fail as the Bucks coach. I think he would hate it as the Bucks coach, and I think he's achieved what he probably set out to do for Houston. So, and let's see it through.
Exactly.
All right, so we're going to wrap this college notebook up, gentlemen. Booney, I don't know about you, but I am all for Jake taking over as president of the NCAA.
I second that.
All right, thank you, sir. And do we have any final thoughts about college basketball or the G League Elite Camp before we wrap up this segment?
I'm excited to see how the guys do I'm excited to see the combine games.
Yes.
That's going to be a lot of fun, and see how the guys perform, and see how guys like Gortman and Tyson play in that game. And I'm excited to see Timmy play, and Circavian Smith and all those guys. So I'm excited about the combine games.
Right. Do you know there's over 80 guys this year? It's a record.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah. Must be a lot of guys not playing in the games, or either that, or they're going to do, I don't know. But as far as I know, they're going to have the same number of games. So it's going to be hard to find playing time unless a lot of guys are passing on the games.
You have 12 guys on each team now, where on the G League there was 11.
At Portsmouth, I think they have 8 on each team.
Yeah. I think they're going to figure it out.
Hope so. All right. So that's a wrap for our college notebooks. Our special guest this week is USC's Drew Peterson, who just finished competing at the G League Elite Camp. He's a fifth-year senior and a 2-time All Pac-12 first-team selection. At G League Elite Camp, Drew measured at 6'8" with a 6'10" wingspan and produced very good times in the lane, shuttle, and sprint drills. He also played 37 minutes in 2 games, shooting 67% from the floor, 33% from deep, 70% from the foul line, for a total of 20 points. He also added 11 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals. Not only are you a 2-time All Pac-12 selection, but you're a 2-time special guest on our show this year. The only other person that can make that claim this year, I think, is Mike DeCourcy, a Hall of Famer in the Basketball Writers Hall of Fame. So you're in good company.
Just as big as the Pac-12 selection, just as big.
Yes, undoubtedly. So welcome back, Drew. How you doing?
Doing well. Just training out here in Indianapolis with my agency. So just day by day getting better. So that's the business as usual right now.
What is your agency?
Octagon.
All right. Big guys, big guns. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So what was the Elite Camp experience like?
It was good. Good. It was a busy few days, obviously. From early morning till late night, we had activities going on, media and meetings, and interviews with teams, and obviously testing, games, and shooting. So it was a fun few days. It was good. Obviously, I'm from like around Chicago, so it was good to be back around that area. But it was good. It was a good experience overall.
Right, right. And in terms of your performance, which I noted a lot of it, you look at that 37 minutes, the per minute production is excellent. So what were you pleased with, and where do you think you could have done better?
Yeah, definitely. I think I thought my game one was pretty average. Game two, I thought I played really well. But I thought overall, I probably didn't get up as many threes as I wish I would have liked. I think it's just general flow of the game. Just kind of didn't get in the spots, didn't get the opportunities. Probably hesitated on a couple too many. Tried to create a little more than I should have been, especially in game one. But outside of that, I thought it went well. I thought I rebounded well. We ended up, getting the win in game two. I thought we should have had the game one win as well. So that was unfortunate. But overall,
is that the one that went into overtime? I know it was. All of them ultimately were close.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no. Game two was overtime, I think. And then, we ended up pulling that out. But they were all close, and it was a good experience. It's cool getting to play with other college guys that you kind of watch and look at and see kind of how they're evaluated and stuff like that. So it's a great experience to be able to participate in something like that.
Yeah, sure. And how many teams did you privately interview with?
14, I think. I think it was they're like kind of 3-hour windows at the end of the first day, beginning of the second day, and like 20 minutes at a time, and same kind of elevator pitch deal. You get like most teams asking you similar questions, so it was cool. It was a good experience with that too.
Is it you pitching yourself or them pitching themselves to you? How's that work? Is it more?
It's just they kind of want to know just like a little bit about your background, so you end up kind of telling a similar story. With like, oh, how'd you grow up, stuff like that. So by like the 10th, 11th one, you're kind of just repeating at least with that part, you're kind of repeating yourself a little bit. But then most teams are kind of dive off into different branches of what they're looking for and stuff like that, how you can fit, and so it's really cool getting to see different programs, organizations, and kind of their front office, the people that work with them, and that kind of stuff.
Right. So will you ask any funny or weird questions? Sometimes I know they ask some pretty funny questions. Did you get any of those?
No. Most of it was pretty basic. A lot of them like pretty general questions, so nothing too crazy, nothing notable that I can remember regarding like weird or funny questions.
Okay, all right. So what would you say was the highlight of the event? I mean, being in terms of people you met, or plays that you made, or just what were some of the highlights? You'll always remember.
Yeah, I think it was just cool getting to be a part of something like that. Obviously getting there the first day and kind of saying you got invited by the NBA to something like that, and being able to kind of get recognized a little bit and kind of see it as another check off the box and kind of the steps of your career. And it was cool to be able to participate in all the drills. All the testing was fun, and getting to meet all the guys, kind of just talk and banter with them, and kind of see where everyone's head's at. It's kind of everyone approaches the same goal and process. To try and become professional. So it was a really cool experience to take part in that, and kind of just see the next step in your journey and kind of get set up for that regarding the professional route.
Right. I with the workouts, I mean, you had to be pleased with your shuttle and lane and sprint times, huh? I mean, they were for your size, they were excellent.
Yeah. The most proud I am was definitely my sprint time, because I always tell people I'm like a lot faster than people realize, and so I feel like I'm kind of like how LeBron isn't like necessarily like as like side to side like shifty, but like when he gets downhill he gets going. So
right,
that's where I was kind of happy to kind of get some reward. I think I was like ended up being like top 3 or 4 in that, so that was pretty cool.
we have been tracking as much as we can since 2016 combine results. So that includes Portsmouth and all that stuff. And you are in the 78th percentile all time in our database for sprint time. So for somebody your size, I mean, I didn't look at, if how many players taller than you are above you, but I wouldn't suspect there's many. So well done.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I like the fun fact there.
Yeah. So overall, and we talked about this a little bit privately. Overall, I thought you were one of the top performers and would earn invite to the combine, but you were not one of the 8 selected. What did you and your agents make of that? What did you take away? Was it discouraging, or are they like, calm down, this isn't the end of the world? I mean, what did they say to you?
No, yeah, it was not too big a deal. Obviously, I appreciate all the recognition, from guys like you and us on Twitter and stuff like that. And I think it was just good that to be able to perform well, and that was my main goal: just perform well and do all control what you can control. And I think especially going after game 2, being able to leave that on a good note. I'm not really too discouraged about not getting the next invite, just because I understand how the process works with guys. Different spots need to be seen, potentially that are younger, haven't been seen as much, and I totally get that. So, I'm just trying to control what I can control, and take it one day at a time, like I've been saying.
Yeah. I don't think there was one of the 8 that has as much experience as you at a high level. So, for example, Janiah Broome played at Auburn. Okay, that's high level, but he only did it for 1 year. So
right.
You were at Rice for 2 years and then USC for 3. In the last 2 years, first team all conference. So my takeaway from it is, it's all done by polling of NBA teams.
Right.
And my takeaway was they were like, okay, I've seen enough of Drew Peterson. I know what he is, but I'm not sure about Janiah Broome yet.
Right. Yeah. Totally. I totally get that, and I understand it's just kind of part of the process. So, yeah, it's not something that I get too discouraged by. Thankfully, I've got obviously a good relationship with my agent, and I thought the interviews went well. So I'm excited to kind of once again take the next few weeks and kind of see where that takes me.
Okay. So what's next? I assume you probably have private workouts planned. Do you have any scheduled, and what teams?
Yeah, I got so far. I mean, obviously, it's kind of add on every few days and stuff like that. But Celtics, Grizzlies, Clippers, Jazz, and Mavericks, all before the draft, obviously.
You met with them already before the combine?
No. I already did. I already did. Those are the ones that are coming up at the end of the month and starting next month. I've already worked out. I did before the camp that week. Monday, I had Denver. Wednesday, Detroit, Thursday, Atlanta. So that was a busy week for me. I'm just trying to, try and get in front of as many coaches as I can, show myself and kind of, let the playing talk. And like I said, I'm not one to, like I've been repeating, control what I can control. And, I'm excited kind of with the process ahead. I've been training out in Indianapolis, and it's been a good few weeks. Good. I've been out here like 6 weeks.
Have you heard from the Pacers since you're right in town?
Yeah. It's funny because, I was talking to them and mentioned that I was out here and stuff like that. But, I'm probably 25 minutes away or something like that. I'm like a little bit outside Indianapolis. But, I mean, that'd be an easy workout for sure. Less travel.
Yeah, sure. So you're definitely still in the running to be drafted. But some have suggested in the past that sometimes it's better to be an undrafted free agent. In fact, I heard it, I believe, yesterday with ESPN's combine coverage. I think somebody said it's better to be undrafted free agent coming out of the draft. I'm not sure I buy that, but okay, I can see where you can kind of like maybe target your destination if you're one of. I think that applies to like a handful of guys, and you might be in that handful. Right. Where you can pick your destination. You can pick a good fit for you. But have you and your agent talked about that scenario?
We've obviously touched base regarding, kind of feedback teams said, they said the feedback's really good. Not specifics regarding that. Obviously, there's a lot of time for what is it, June 22nd. So I haven't looked too much into the specifics regarding that, but yeah, like I said, I'm just trying to hopefully play well over the next 3-4 weeks and let kind of that take care of the business. I think we'll probably get into more of the details regarding that as we get closer to the draft.
Right. Have any, to your knowledge, have any of international teams reached out to Octagon?
I don't really know. I honestly, I have no idea. I don't really have much interest, obviously, anywhere near now for that kind of stuff. So I assume, it hasn't really been talked about.
Well, I was just curious. I mean, if say Real Madrid, I'm not, most leagues, there's only a handful of European leagues that could compete financially with the G League.
Right,
but like if you were invited to go to Spain and play for Real Madrid and they gave you like 2 years guaranteed, more money than the G League, they probably would give you more money than G League. Would that interest you?
Not really, especially not at this point. I know that kind of, like you said, worst case, get to pick the destination and hopefully get in a good system for, what I can do. I know once I get the right fit, kind of work my butt off and do something like that. I know that I can prove, I can make it to that next level.
Right.
So that's definitely not really on the front of my mind with really considering those kind of options.
You disappoint me because I was hoping you'd go to Spain or France and then I'd come visit you in the summer.
That'd be nice. It's a good summertime destination. I bet. I don't doubt it.
You're gonna end up in Iowa City, and I'm gonna be like, no, thanks, Drew. I'm busy that weekend.
Exactly.
This is going to be a touchy one. So I don't mean to put you on the spot, but this is something that kind of irks me, and I'm kind of curious for some. I'm going to read it as I wrote it. I wanted to ask you about like the Thompson twins from Overtime Elite and other untested prospects that are not playing, not even testing at the combine. And I would think from your perspective, who's someone who's worked so hard to get rid of that 3-star label, okay?
Yeah.
That it must be frustrating to see some guys ride their high school recruiting rankings all the way to the lottery while you got to work your ass off. Just curious on your take. You don't have to name anybody, but I mean that's got to be frustrating that those high school labels like stick with you like gum on your shoe.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's frustrating sometimes for sure. I think it's something I've kind of experienced at a lot of different points in my career. But I understand the politics behind it and just how the game's played. So it's something I don't really try and think about too much. But it's something that I think it's also helped shape me. I think kind of getting that kind of 3-star label and all that stuff has helped me kind of have a chip on my shoulder. And I think almost as if I got more recognition out of high school, I'd have a different path and potentially wouldn't be sitting where I am right now. So I think everything happens for a reason in that regard. But there's definitely things that are frustrating regarding me. It's just it's kind of I've understood kind of the politics at this point with how things work with 5 stars and all that stuff. So I try not to let it try not to think about it too much.
Right. So I want to ask you a question about a rival. Okay. Normally I don't ask players about other players, but we've gotten to know each other over time. So I think you can be honest with me. And I want your honest opinion. Amari Bailey, who's at the NBA Combine, UCLA's, freshman guard. And he has the option, unlike you, he has the option to return if he wants. But like you, we have him ranked probably about 25 spots higher than most other draft sites. So I wanted to know what you thought about Amari Bailey, because to me, I see an ultra talented player that I think, maybe not this year, but, is definitely a first round talent at some point.
Yeah, definitely. He had a great end of the season. I think, he's kind of figuring out for the first, maybe 60% of it, but he finished really strong. And I was just kind of, I haven't been following it too much, but I saw he had a good day in the first game they had yesterday. So I agree. I think he's a really talented kid, really shifty how he plays, and obviously very young. So I think that I can agree. I think he's going to be a hell of a player, and I think he showed it, yesterday with hopefully if he can put a couple good days together. I assume he wouldn't be going back to school in that regard. So I can see he's got a lot of talent.
Right, but I'm thinking like right now, I'm seeing he's mainly projected as a mid-second round pick, and I'm like thinking, go back to school. You can do way better than that. That's my opinion, but
yeah, definitely.
I actually also think, I just went through a mock draft with, so-called experts, and the West Coast guys, they just ignored you guys.
I know.
I could have taken Bailey, Bona, and Jalen Clark. I ended up with Bailey and Clark, and I forget who the other person I drafted. I was drafting for Brooklyn. But I couldn't believe all those guys went, undrafted. So Bona went undrafted, I believe. But anyway, getting into East Coast bias. I'm on the East Coast, but I, watch his basketball's basketball.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you.
So lastly, I got to ask about your USC Trojans. They're bringing in a top 10 recruiting class, including the newly signed Bronny James, Isaiah Collier, who most people have as the number one prospect. And they'll be joining a returning core that includes Boogie, Kobe Johnson, Vince Iwachukwu, and Josh Morgan, just to name some. With that said, what are your expectations for the Trojans next season?
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I think they're set up really well. Obviously, it's really cool to kind of get the whole Bronny deal and get him out there. And there's a lot of tickets are going to be sold, and I think it's great to get attention. Obviously, USC is a football school, and getting that kind of publicity for basketball is going to be great. And especially for guys like Isaiah and Bronny to have a guy like Boogie come back and end up kind of mentoring them in a way and kind of showing them, how a guard can play at the next level. I think it'll be great for him. So. I think they're really set up well to, even with Rodman coming in, to have a lot of different guys that can impact in different ways, and they have a lot of experience in the team outside of the younger guards. A lot of experience coming back, so I think they're going to be set up to do a lot next year.
Yeah, I mean, potentially the best backcourt in college basketball. The freshmen might have a hard time finding time behind Boogie and Kobe.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Kobe's an underrated guy, and especially with all the hype with Bronny and obviously Isaiah, like Kobe's gonna have a big impact on the team. So it's gonna be interesting to see kind of how like the guards, playing time all work stuff out, but they're definitely loaded with talent. In that
you might end up starting four guards again.
Yeah, 100%, totally.
Yeah. We're waiting for Drew and Doc to join us for our normal NBA segment, but right now they're both trailing behind. But Drew Peterson has decided he'll stick around for a few minutes and talk some NBA. So, your thoughts? Who's your home team? I know you said you're rooting for LeBron right now, but is it like the Bulls or something from the Midwest? Or
yeah, Bulls. Obviously, D-Rose era was our prime, or my prime. Obviously not. I wasn't alive for the MJ era, but we haven't been too good since. So we're trying to put it together.
Yeah, you're kind of in that Midland area where you don't get a great draft pick, and you just barely squeak into the playoffs. Yeah, so something's got to go there. So the first topic we were going to talk about is the exits of the Warriors, Suns, Knicks, and Sixers, and I guess the question I was going to pose to everybody is: it time to blow it up, or is it just a matter of a few tweaks? Do you have any thoughts there? Interestingly, by the way, two of those teams have fired their coaches. Texas fired Doc Rivers, and the Suns fired Monty Williams. And James Harden has said he's going to decline his player option, which probably means he won't come back with the Sixers. So, what do you pick a team there that you'd like to comment on?
Yeah, I mean, we could go down the list. Warriors. It's going to be interesting. I think they keep Draymond because I think I think there's talks of contract extension. I think they value him. I saw they said Clay, they're not going to sign him for as much as he thinks or he would want. So I think he ends up leaving, which I don't necessarily think is the worst fit. Maybe give Poole kind of more chance to, really start to expand. And Clay's had an interesting, year or two. He can get hot some games, but obviously There's some struggles in the playoffs, so I think it'll be kind of a mutual parting. But the Warriors, I think, will always be competitive. So I think that'll kind of be like a breath of fresh air. Obviously, it'll suck, kind of dismantling that core, but I think that'll be good.
There's been some talk that Poole and Draymond might not be so compatible, and Kuminga once out. That's been the talk.
I mean, you could probably package Kuminga for at least a guy that can maybe compete a little more in the rotation right now. Give a little bit of a team that wants some younger help for a guy who can kind of play now. The Draymond Poole thing is going to be interesting. I think they got to hash it out probably this offseason and just really it doesn't seem. I thought Draymond at first was going to be out, but it seems like they want to keep him. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. Maybe they trade Poole. Who knows? I have no idea. Yeah. It's kind of hard. The value went down after the playoffs. So.
Well, yeah, and he didn't, he didn't have the season, quite the season we thought he would, and then the playoffs, he really wasn't very good at all, and a lot of times didn't see the court. Of course, the Suns, they have Ayton. I don't know if Ayton is going to stay now that Monty Williams is gone, but Chris Paul is going to be 39 next year. How old's KD? KD is 36.
Yeah, somewhere mid-30s, somewhere up there. Yeah, leaning high 30s.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
they don't have any draft picks because of the KD deal.
Yeah. Is Ayton? Because he re-signed this past year, right?
Yeah, they signed him to a huge contract. Indiana signed him, and then they had to match it. So yeah,
I think you got to trade Ayton because Ayton clearly it's just kind of like it seems like they mutually don't really like each other. You can get some good value for Ayton. Chris Paul is going to be interesting to see. I think you move off him because Cam Payne's good enough to contribute. Maybe try and get I don't know, but Chris Paul's. I'm not necessarily, the injury stuff's just kind of too hard to work with. You never know kind of like when you're going to get him, when you're not. But I think you get someone good for Ayton. So I think that's probably what you do.
They certainly need better depth. I mean, they really didn't really have a clear-cut fifth starter. I mean, they traded all their depth to the Nets. And they really didn't want to use their bench in the playoffs. And they're starting, two guys well into their 30s. And then Chris Paul, goes down. As far as the Knicks go, I think the Knicks, they got about as far as we thought they would. I think that's a team moving in the right direction. I think maybe they have some good pieces that are kind of sitting around like Quickly and Toppin that maybe they could get another good starter for. But one thing I think they got to do, I think they really should bring back Josh Hart. I don't know about you. I thought Josh Hart was it's like a sixth man of the year.
Yeah, I agree. The pieces make sense. It's just kind of like it's been interesting because Randall's had like 2 consecutive playoff seasons where he kind of didn't do, or was that 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago.
Maybe that's 2, but either way. Yeah. So 2 times they were in the playoffs, he didn't really play well. A lot of people, calling for him to be traded and stuff. Might be an overreaction, but I'm not necessarily the biggest. I can see a team considering moving off RJ Barrett in a way. I don't know. It's tricky though. I consider it a successful year. Yeah.
Picking up on your point, I mean Brunson just seemed to be doing so much for that team, and of course, I don't think he's the type of guy you want as your number one. I think he, I mean, he's certainly capable of that, but I just don't think you're going to go all the way to the championship with him as your number one or Randall as your number one. So I think they need a number one, and I think Brunson did prove the point, like that the Knicks didn't make a huge bad decision in terms of going with him over Cavaliers. I'm drawing a blank.
Mitchell.
Yeah, over Donovan Mitchell. Yep. But otherwise, I just think that the lack of a number one scorer goes. Drew, meet Drew. I introduced you before.
How's it going, man?
Before you got here. We already started talking about Warriors, Suns, Knicks. We haven't gotten to the Sixers yet. I'm hoping Doc will join us because I'm sure he has some. Doc's a Sixers fan, and so am I actually. But what's your take on the Warriors?
It's a therapy session, man. We can let it all out.
The question is it time to blow it up, or is it a matter of a few tweaks? Drew and I, Drew P, think that the Warriors probably are just in line for some tweaks. I think the one thing they got to do, though, is at least have somebody coming off the bench that can block some shots and protect the rim, and not just have
the number one thing they were missing.
Yeah, but go on. You're the Warriors guru.
Yeah, no, I think the Warriors, look, as long as Steph Curry's in Chase Center, I think you have a chance. You have an all-time great player, an all-time great shooter at the point of attack. The gravity that he just provides on offense will always elevate guys around him, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. But, I mean, we kind of saw it. Klay Thompson is just not the same player, and can you really blame him? ACL tear, Achilles tear. He's in his, 30s now. I think for me, one of the things that was really shocking was Draymond Green just didn't seem to have the same fire and edge that he's had for so long. Not that he played well in spots, but I just feel that like that Draymond edge that kind of, separated him from other players wasn't really there. And I do think a lack of size at the end of the day. I mean, we're seeing it now. You look at the teams that are still in the playoffs, and they're relatively big. The Lakers are a big team. Jokic is the best player in the league right now, and he is a big, Miami's a bit on the smaller side, but they still have a guy like Bam who kind of fills that Draymond Green role.
Celtics have two functional centers.
I mean, Jason Tatum plays out on the perimeter, and he's 6'9", 6'10". So I think size is definitely a thing.
Jason Tatum's a poor man's Drew Peterson.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah, no, I think the Warriors have a chance. I mean, it'll be very interesting. I think the thing to keep the eye on is that, there's talks that Bob Myers, who's been kind of the head of the brain trust behind all this, is possibly parting ways. So that'll be very interesting. Personally, I believe as long as
Have you heard about the friction between Poole and Draymond still exists?
That doesn't surprise me at all. I think the biggest thing with that is I don't know if at any point Draymond has come out and publicly apologized to Poole. And I seriously, I don't know if he's ever come out on his podcast in a media day and come out and said hey, I just want to put this out there, to Jordan, to the Warriors organization. I don't know if he's done that yet. And I think that kind of says a lot. I worry that Jordan Poole might mentally just not be there anymore, at least with the Warriors. I mean, if you look at some of the plays he was making in the body language, I mean, it was really bad. I mean, there were times he was straight up running into, Dennis Schroeder or, guy and full extension, pushing the back and then looking at the refs. I'm like, dude,
Yep. All right, we got to say goodbye to Drew. His time has run out. By the way, I see you got an injured finger. Is everything okay there?
Yeah. Just was playing one-on-one with Sonogo and got it jammed up in there. Just had to keep it in a splint for 3 weeks. No big deal.
Right. Oh, is it broken?
Oh no, it's just it's kind of like a tendon issue. It's just kind of like a little slanted and no bone issue or anything like that. Just got to keep it kind of straight for a few weeks.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Thankfully, nothing bad.
Okay. Good. All right, Drew. Thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate the extra time to help out.
Hey, you look really good, Drew. By the way, I didn't get a chance to say it, but you looked really good the other day, man. You played really well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. Oh yeah. One day at a time. We're we're trying to make stuff happen. So I'm excited for the next few weeks and kind of see where that takes me.
Right on, man.
And you're now officially on the HP staff. So there you go.
yes, exactly. All
right, buddy. So hopefully maybe before the next season starts, wherever you're going to be, maybe we could talk to you then, sometime late summer, early fall.
Yeah, let me know whenever.
All right, Drew. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
And we'll be rooting for you as always.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Right on, Drew.
Here was my take. And you already know my take, but the rest of the people don't. When as soon as they lost, I mean, obviously you, myself, and Booney all thought that they were going to make it to at least the conference finals. Now, the Lakers have surprised me by being better than they thought. And, they have a lot of pieces. And a lot of these pieces they're actually kind of playing up to their potential. So it seems like a lot of times the Lakers grab all these guys and they never actually play to what they used to play at or what they could play at. But Hachimura is playing the best basketball of his career. Schroeder's playing the best defense of his career. Reeves obviously is a young player, so he's getting better, almost seemingly by the day. Who am I missing? Vanderbilt. Okay, well, we found out there's a flaw there. He's one of those guys that is just so poor
offensively,
like PJ Tucker, that sometimes it's hard to play him in the playoffs. Yeah, but he's definitely going to get you a ton of wins during the regular season.
Totally.
When the defense isn't so good, and he's got to work on his game. He's still young. Get some offense, and he
has to do is get to 8. Yeah, I mean, he can be 10 points a game,
right? And he can be a 6th man of the year type of guy because he rebounds well, he defends super well,
plays super hard.
Yeah, plays super hard. So get some offense, Jared. Yeah. But what I said to you about yes, I underestimated the Lakers a little bit, but with the Warriors, my feeling was, the formula no longer works because the pieces are much older.
Yep.
And you can't, the small ball lineup where you have like a 6'7" center and a 6'7" power forward, and sometimes you don't even have those Wiggins and Draymond I'm talking about, and sometimes those guys aren't always on the court even at the same time, or you have Looney who's like 6'8". So
6'8", 6'9",
yeah. So the best you're doing is 6'9", and you're gonna get. There's gonna be nights where you're just gonna get in the playoffs where you're gonna get crushed on the boards and you're gonna get killed in the paint, especially against a big team like the Lakers.
I mean, there's 2 things that, and I've had conversations, with my dad about this, with the basketball staff at Menlo where I work, and it was 2 things for me. First, and I may have said this on an episode prior, is I don't know, I cannot remember a team at any high level, be it college or pro, that not game to game, not series to series, not just possession to possession fluctuated so aggressively from beautiful basketball, dialed in, locked in, to then something just like almost moronic that like doesn't make sense. I mean, there'd be a possession where you'd get Andrew Wiggins drives into the paint, kicks out to Draymond, swings it to Curry, who penetrates, and then kicks out to Clay, open 3. And then come right back on the next offensive possession and settle for a 32-foot contested fall away with 16 seconds on the shot clock. And I think the other thing that hurt the Warriors was I still question how good the Lakers are. In today's NBA, they are a team that struggles to score in the low 100s, and they're not getting to the free throw line 30 times a night. That's not sustainable in my opinion. It's why I question their ability to win it all.
Yeah.
But at least
the foul line situation, we can nitpick about the refs all we want.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is their play style has a lot to do with why they were last in the league in free throw attempts.
Exactly. And I think for me, at least the Lakers had an identity that they went all in on. And it's better to have an identity, which is going to be, we are not a great shooting team. We're not a super athletic team. We're not a great transition team. But when we get you in the half court, we're going to try to punish you at the rim. The Warriors just never felt that they could get their identity has been the small ball, and it just didn't work this year. I think Wiggins was missed a lot of time. I mean, people forget he was gone for 2 months, comes back, sustains the rib injury. Looney has always been just kind of a piece. He's a great piece, but he's a piece. And Draymond, I just don't think he had that same edge. And I don't know if he's just older. I don't know if it's a physical thing. To be honest, I don't know if Draymond's relationship with LeBron comes into question. He has such a deferential relationship with LeBron where he's so just over the last couple of seasons been so I mean, he told the team he wanted to skip out on a game to go watch LeBron break the scoring record. I can't imagine, and I wasn't alive this time, but I can't imagine Larry Bird telling the team, hey, I want to go watch, Magic go break a record, so I'm going to go fly out to LA. I'm not playing against the Hawks tonight.
Larry
I can't imagine that.
The only reason Larry would watch is if Magic was actually going to break a leg.
Yeah, exactly. So, I just think that the Jordan Poole, it was just, they were not a good team this year. If you look at the record, you look at the road record, I mean, they were a 6 seed. It was a 6 versus a 7. This was not a 7 beating a 1. I just think myself, I think we all kind of assumed, look, you got a great all-timer at the point of attack. on top of championship medal, it's going to be enough. And it wasn't. Do I think the Warriors are dead in the water?
I don't think we thought the Lakers could stay healthy. I don't think we thought that they would continue to gel.
Agreed.
You know, I think we underestimated Schroeder. I think we underestimated Hachimura. I think we underestimated Reeves.
Totally.
And we certainly underestimated the durability of Anthony Davis and LeBron, you know, who have basically stayed healthy. So Doc is with us now, and my apologies, Doc, for forgetting put the link in. I sent it to our guest, and I forgot to put it in the script. So I'm sorry. Where we are, we're still on topic 1, and basically our thoughts on the 4 teams that just exited the playoffs, and basically, is it time to blow it up, or is it a matter of tweaking? We've talked at length about the Warriors. We talked some about the Suns and the Knicks. We haven't talked about the Sixers at all yet.
It's all you, Doc.
If you want to talk about the other 3 teams, you're more than welcome to, or you could just start off with your thoughts on the Sixers. And I know I personally have plenty.
I have to start off with the other 3 teams real fast. The Suns, they had injuries. Of course, their bench was already not deep. So when you're missing 2 starters, come on, it's like impossible to win, you know.
Right. Especially on a team that already lacked depth.
Exactly. So hopefully next year, but Devin Booker had himself a series, man. Devin Booker was top 3 player in playoffs this year, easy, maybe top 2. I'm not home over Jimmy Butler because he didn't get as far, but
him and Butler, you know, and if De'Aaron Fox would have kept on going, we might be talking about him too. But
definitely. But sorry, Suns. Next team, the Warriors. I don't really have nothing too much to say about the Warriors, only because I'm kind of happy they didn't make it, because I didn't want to see. I couldn't imagine a series with the Nuggets and the Warriors in Western Conference Finals. I didn't want that to happen. I thought it was absurd to have both of those teams, because I felt like the Nuggets always crash, and I felt like the Warriors this season wasn't the Warriors that I was used to seeing. So I'm glad at least one of the 2 made it, but not both of them, because I probably would have got killed on the show for saying both of those teams wasn't making it. The next was the Knicks. The Knicks got far. I mean, the Knicks got further than anybody thought they would.
Yep.
What was more embarrassment on the Knicks part was that you had one guy score 41 in an elimination game, and then nobody else stepped up. That's bad. I mean, it's bad because you could have won that game. At least one more person stepped up, like Randall or RJ Barrett.
Yeah.
It's disappointing to see RJ Barrett not even take a step forward yet. It's to me like I guess he is what he is. He's not going to get better. He is who he is. He's a poor shooter, period. Mm-hmm. He could get to the basket, but it doesn't. He's not really that. He's not even a 3rd option. He's not really a 4th option. I don't know where he is, honestly. I think he's more off the bench, but the Knicks is forcing him to play starting role. Julius Randle, to me, is definitely a good 3rd option. He'll be better on a team like the Sixers, but he's not a 2nd guy. And Brunson's not a 1st guy. Their team is kind of weird, but I like their pieces, but they all are playing up where they not really supposed to be playing, being a guy. But Brunson did well. He had 41. But they team need a superstar badly. I think that team needs a superstar badly. Somebody definitely better than Brunson to move on. And now the team
one thought on Brunson really quick, guys. You know, Rich, I know you and Drew were talking about him. I will say this. I know a lot of people talk about his contract. Do you guys know he's the 14th highest paid point guard in the league, which I think is actually
he's only making about
perfect.
$20 million a year, right? 20,
which
25?
Is perfect. I know we talked about his contract a lot, but I think Doc's right. I'm not going to say like a Luka, but he needs a Luka caliber type player. And then I think Brunson might be one of the best 2nd options.
Yeah.
But but I think he proved a lot.
I mean, he was carrying that team.
That team.
His back must still hurt.
So sorry, Doc. All you on the Sixers, man.
You know, it's interesting about the Sixers. You know why? Because on Twitter, I seen 2 different sides of Twitter this past week when the Sixers lost. I saw the people, of course, blaming James Harden. Okay, I don't have nothing wrong with blaming James Harden, but it's just like, come on, man. It's had this series he won 2 games for them, and James Harden did something for me that I didn't think he would ever do, and that's score 40 points twice. If you told me James Harden scored 40 points twice in a playoff series, I was like, you're lying. If you told me the Sixers won 3 games and one of those games was without Embiid, the person you got to blame most, and I saw this comment on Twitter, was Joel Embiid. Some people was blaming him. Don't get me wrong, some people was, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough hatred. Any other superstar would have got way more hatred than Embiid. I don't know what it is. I think it's because of Philly fans so overprotective of Embiid that's like they're not willing.
Because you lose him as a Sixers fan. You lose him in what's left. I mean, Maxey. Harris is a good player, but he's overpaid. So yeah, we're definitely, what we want as a Sixers fan is we want him to play the game the right way. But go on. That's my feeling. But he doesn't play the game the right way, which I'll get into.
I wrote an article last year when they got eliminated by the Miami Heat. I got a lot of criticism from Philadelphia fans. Somebody know basketball. Now this year they saying the exact same thing I said about the team, which last year the team never changed. Okay, the reason they keep losing because they never addressed the common denominator, which was Joel Embiid. He's just not that type of superstar to carry you, and Harden isn't a good take over the game in the fourth quarter guy. So it's like you still need a closer. Is Maxey a closer? No, Maxey's not a closer. So you still need a closer. They best option, they gonna blow it up, but their best option is definitely to try to get Dame Lillard, okay, or try to get maybe, I don't know, go on a limb and get John Moran, but they need somebody else. They're gonna have to do a big swing trading Tobias Harris and Maxey for Damian Lillard. If not, then trade them two and get another young guy like, I don't know. You need something. You can't go into next year with the same team. I saw a lot of advice. The Sixers need to change, get better wings. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the Sixers get on a bench.
Nope.
That
won't matter. The way they play basketball right now, you could surround them with everything you want, and they would still lose because of Embiid.
Hey, but remember, Embiid said Hakeem Olajuwon has a low basketball IQ.
Did?
Don't forget it. You didn't hear about that, Rich?
No.
Hakeem had come out and was being critical of Olajuwon, and Hakeem Embiid responded saying that isn't the age of nines anymore. You can't play that way. But I guess these old guys don't know a lot about the game of basketball.
Yeah, well, watch Joker do it all the way to the NBA Finals.
So, yeah, man, I don't know.
Here's why I don't blame Harden. If you watch Sunday's game, it was the same thing over and over and over again. Embiid would get the ball in the high post, way away from the basket. We're talking 15, 16, 17 feet, okay? And he would get the ball there, and he would hold the ball for seemingly a half hour. The shot clock would go under 5 seconds, and then they would be forced to do something. And when they weren't doing that, or he'd give it up to Harden, with maybe 7 seconds on the shot clock, and all Harden could do is drive and either take the layup or dish it out to one of the corners. They did the same thing over and over again. Embiid was nowhere around for any rebounds when he took his fadeaway jumpers, which he stinks at. He thinks he can, he can shoot like Joker. But here's what I want to ask you guys is, do you think from a physical standpoint, is there anything stopping Joel Embiid playing like Joker? Is there anything stopping him beside that he doesn't want to play that way?
Physically, he's the most, I would say him and Giannis are probably the two best physical specimens in the league from just size, athleticism. Look, I get it. This isn't the 90s where you can just dump it down the post. And I understand that. But at the same time, dude, Al Horford and an undersized Robert Williams are guarding you. You're the NBA scoring champion, the reigning MVP. And you don't – AD at least has shown me, that against the Warriors, give me the ball every time, and I'm going to score every single time in the paint because they cannot stop me. It's not glamorous, it's not sexy, but I'm going to shoot over Draymond or Looney, and I'm going to score 40. I just don't understand Embiid's infatuation with fall away jumpers and the 3-ball. I'm like, dude,
well, here's the other thing is he can't drive. He can't drive against good defenders. Yeah. That's why everyone's saying, "Oh my God, they got to take advantage of Marcus Smart guarding Embiid." They can't because he can't dribble past them.
You have James Harden.
If Embiid truly got the ball in the post, he could have scored on Marcus Smart play after play, but he didn't. He didn't. He got into a position where he had to put the ball on the floor or take one of those fadeaway jumpers. Okay,
those are the times when it's just like park your ass on the block,
right?
Post up, and you have James Harden.
It doesn't happen, and that's why the Celtics put Marcus Smart on him. They're like, he's going to get the ball way away from the basket. Marcus Smart's going to pick his pocket if he puts it on the floor, and then he's going to take these crazy 15-footers.
Yeah, right, no, it's just disappointing.
I'm going to give you guys some numbers here because I said the same thing about Embiid at the start of the season when the Sixers weren't playing very well. Okay, I said the same thing. The guy doesn't run the floor. The guy plays too much ISO. He doesn't pass enough. The Sixers don't have enough cutting. But so listen to this. First of all, I'm going to talk about how the Sixers play. This is the same things I said. Like in the first month of the season was still going on in the playoffs. I compared Philly to Boston, Denver, Golden State, Miami. Why did I pick those 4 teams? 3 of the 4 are still alive in the playoffs. 2 of them have been in the Eastern Conference Finals for 2 consecutive years. Golden State's the one
champion
dynasty. Yeah, the one dynasty we still kind of have going. And of course, Denver was the best team in the West. And they have a player who Embiid could be like. Philly in transition between those 5 teams, 4th, and this isn't how much they do it, not how well they do it, how much. So Philly doesn't run the floor. The only team that runs less is Miami, who's down to like 7 players. ISO. Philly almost runs twice as much ISO as those other 4 teams. It's not even close. In fact, the only team that they run 3 times as much ISO as Golden State, almost 3 times as much ISO as Denver, almost 3 times as much ISO than Miami. The only team that's close is not somewhat close as Boston, but they're not really close. Cutting, Philly's the least uses cuts, the least. Off-screen plays, off-screen shots, the least, 1% of the time. Handoffs, they would have been last, but Boston runs handoffs a little bit less. What I'm saying is they don't use no motion. There's no motion in that offense. It's all Embiid holds the ball till there's 5 seconds left to go in the shot clock, and then he either takes a crazy shot or he hands it off to Harden and says, "Okay, you just see what you can do."
Crazy auto stats you just said. Motion, not running plays. It sounds like they're missing Ben Simmons because when they had Ben Simmons, all those stuff was up. I'm just saying, man. Just saying.
At this point, I'm willing to listen to anything, to fix this team. But wait, I'm not done. Now we're going to talk about Embiid's numbers in the playoffs. Transition, percentage of his plays, possessions, 1%. He had 8 transition baskets in the playoffs. Putbacks, offensive rebounds for scores. Embiid, 18% this is 18th percentile among all players in the playoffs. So I'm talking Chris Paul, I'm talking Steph Curry. He ranked at the 18th percentile for how many times he got offensive rebounds. He had 6 putbacks in the playoffs for baskets. ISO. You know how much ISO he ran? He ran ISO 91% of the time. You know how successful he was? 21st percentile. So he did it the most, and he sucked at it. I actually, when I say 91st, I mean of all the players in the playoffs, if you put them all,
91st percentile.
He was at the 91st percentile for frequency, and he was at the 21st percentile for production. Same thing with post-up plays. Guess where he ranks in post-up efficiency in the playoffs? Joel Embiid.
In efficiency, I'm going to say...
In efficiency. Now, I'm not talking frequency.
25%.
twice as much, 48th. All right. So my next question is, we talked about all the numbers. I think we're all in agreement that at least the way Embiid has been utilized, is the problem with the Sixers. So now my question, and I'll start with you, Doc, was this a Doc Rivers problem or is this a Joel Embiid problem? Meaning Doc Rivers has been fired, so maybe the next coach gets Embiid to do what he should do, play more like Joker, or is Embiid never going to change?
Embiid is never going to change. It was never a coach fault. Okay, it always was Embiid's problem because he wanted the ball more. He wanted to win an MVP so bad. So by him wanting to win an MVP so bad, the ball had to be in his hands more to have these most ridiculous stats. See, his problem is that he was always a hater of Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons always had the ball in his hands as a true point guard, and he used to set it up. And then it used to seem like, see, that team before Ben Simmons left, it was ran through Ben. Meaning Ben Simmons did everything for that team, scoring, defending, rebounding. Ben Simmons was actually their best rebounder and getting every guy involved. The shooters had their best seasons with Ben Simmons. See, before Ben Simmons left, we had guys like Steph Curry, JJ Redick, Marco Bellinelli, Robert Covington having their best seasons ever with the Sixers. And so Embiid's stats wasn't averaging 30. He was averaging more like 25, but it was better for the team. The team used to be first seed. Now that Embiid left, all they do is Harden looks like he gets a lot of assists, but his assists is stat pattern assists, the Russell Westbrook assists, where it's like, okay, I'm dumping it to Embiid. He wastes the clock for 15 seconds. He make an ISO move. And then when Embiid's out the game, I'm running the floor and just going to the basket and kicking out for three and hopefully somebody make. But that's why in the playoffs, it don't work. Because all teams got to do is dial into an ISO with Embiid or dial into a Harden kick out. And that's the easiest thing to guard in the playoffs. That's why it was different. So it is Embiid's fault. It's always been Embiid's fault because he was selfish and didn't want to play basketball the right way, which was play as a team. Think about it. Who else in the Sixers actually scores? That's like, think about Niang with Ben Simmons would have been averaging more like close to 16. Right. Or Milton, or like the bench would have been better. You have Maxey scoring, but Maxey scores off his own. Maxey gets the ball off the rebound and runs down the court and scores. That's the only way Maxey scores. Maxey don't score nowhere else. So the team
is creating off the dribble.
Exactly. Yeah, but that's him getting the ball and just going.
Right.
He plays erratic. The team never. It's not really Doc Rivers' fault, but it is Doc Rivers' fault because it's like, you got to go to management and say, look, this me dumping. I know you want to give MVP to this kid, but it's not. MVP is not worth it. Like, he begged for MVP so bad. He begged for that trophy. He cried. As soon as he won MVP, I'm coming back. I'm playing. He was injured the whole time. As soon as he won MVP, he played the next game. You see, like, he's. I wrote a whole article about him. I don't want to talk about it no more. But he's a character. He's an actor. He plays a nice guy act. He's never been that guy that can be the type when the cameras is on, take pictures with the fan. When the cameras is off, he pushes them out the way. He's that type of guy, man. So it was never Doc Rivers' fault. Brent Brown was a bad coach, but it was never Doc Rivers' fault. And whoever's going to come in next, what are they going to do? It's like go from Doc Rivers to what? It's like, I don't understand. At the top of the coaches, there's no real difference. You know, you got Monty Williams. Everybody say they want Monty Williams as the coach, but he used to be a Sixers coach 2 years ago. Like, people don't remember Monty was the assistant coach with Doc Rivers. So you bringing in the same coach basically, right? You want Mike D'Antoni. Mike D'Antoni didn't win nothing ever, and he
ever.
That would be. Oh man,
it's like, what do you want? It's like, you go from Doc Rivers. So I'm gonna lay my plane, but it's just
the only thing that would be fun about D'Antoni would be to watch, because you're expected to run the court in D'Antonio's office.
Yeah, Joel would be. I just think that this trio
would just be strolling down the court.
This trio of Harden, Embiid, and Doc was a match made in hell. You have a coach who's just notorious for not being able to. Ever since that run with the Celtics, which was spearheaded by 3 Hall of Famers who were aging veterans who wanted a ring, strong leadership. Ever since he left that Celtics team, Doc has been known for blowing 3-2 leads, blowing 3-1 leads, losing series where he ends up 2-0 at some point. Harden is a notorious playoff choker on the biggest stage. Grant, he did win 2 games for the Sixers, so I think
I think he shook some of that off this
year.
year.
Absolutely. People are going to forget those big games, those clutch shots because of Game 7. But the reality was they had no chance with Game 7 because guess what? Joel Embiid didn't show up. It didn't matter what Harden was going to do. You're not going to win the game when the MVP plays like a 7th man in your rotation. And I think Joel Embiid is trending towards being that next James Harden-esque star, where it's the regular season production looks elite because there's whistles are being, you're going to the free throw line a bunch. I mean, look at his numbers. He's literally averaged 10 points. All of his numbers were down. He averaged a whole 10 points less per game. His shooting percentage was down 5 or 6%. His 3-point percentage was down 5 or 6%.
He's easy to defend by good defensive teams.
What people don't understand about playoff basketball is you're seeing the same guys night in and night out every other night for a week, maybe a week and a half. Do you not think at the highest level that these coaches and even these players who've been playing this game for a long time can't see what you want to do, that a player can't figure out your tendencies? And that's my issue with Embiid, is there's no evolution. There's no growth to his game. This notion of I'm a big man, I shoot threes, that's not evolution. I'm talking about
he can't shoot them that well.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's like, I can step out and hit a 3 occasionally. That's fine. That you can do it once a game. But
1 out of 4 times doesn't help.
Doesn't help. And so I just think that this was a really bad concoction for these 3. It sounds like Harden wants out. It was never going to work, and I don't think you can fix Embiid.
Well, he's going to want out. He's going to want out when he's become the guy everybody piles on when they lose.
Yep. I just don't know how they fix this. I don't believe you can win with Embiid. I never, and I've been a Jokic guy. My parents will tell you I've been on the Jokic train for him. Jokic is better in every way than Embiid. I don't even care about the defense. Defensive upside. I don't even care about that because at least Jokic is going to within his ability compete on defense. Embiid doesn't even give you maximum defensive effort. Yes, when he's dialed in at his peak performance, sure, he's a better defensive player, and his ceiling is so high because of the physical tools, and he can step out and hit a 3. But Jokic, night in and night out, is giving you maximum effort. Will play 40 minutes a night. He runs the court. He'll take over. He take over. He rebounds. He literally elevates everyone. I watched Aaron Gordon in high school. My high school played Aaron Gordon. He was our high school rival. The guy is the reason we didn't hang championship banners in high school. And to see him, he is at his best because he's playing with a guy who has elevated. He has made Aaron Gordon so much better than he ever was. Aaron Gordon leaves the Nuggets. He's going to revert back to the Magic. Aaron Gordon, he's a dunker. Here, he's averaging 17 a game, and people are talking about maybe he's an all-star. I mean, to me, it's not close. It's not a comparison. You can't. Embiid is trending towards that category of great regular season performer. You can't win with him. I'll leave it with that because I do have to run.
Can I move on to the next topic and just get a quick answer for you on this one? And sure. Doc and I can talk about it a little more. But the next topic is, we talked about Monty Williams gone, but just quickly, has KD become the league's biggest coach killer?
I will say that's hard because the problem is KD seeking out. I mean, I guess yes. I guess you probably have to say yes because the problem is KD keeps seeking out these easier routes where it's star-studded rosters where teams have to blow it up to get him. And personality-wise, I don't think Kevin Durant is like super toxic in that he's in management's ear going, I don't like this guy, get rid of this guy. But the reality of it is he has though in the past. Kevin Durant, for whatever reason, doesn't understand the gravity that he carries. Like, I understand the whole, I want to hoop, but dude, the reality of it is you are a high valued, like MVP caliber player in this league. Your name and your abilities carry weight. So when you are added to a team that has a Kyrie Irving and a James Harden, a Steph Curry and a Klay Thompson, a Devin Booker and a DeAndre Ayton, people have expectations, and he just refuses to understand that those are going to come with the territory. And so I think in his head, he's like, I just want to hoop. I just want to hoop. That's all I care about. It's like, dude, I'm sorry, but it goes beyond that, whether you like it or not. If all you want to do is hoop, retire, and go to the YMCA and just go play. Like, that's just not the way the NBA works. There's expectations. Your season was a failure. Your seasons have been a failure since you left the Warriors. So I think you kind of have to say yes, because he keeps going to these situations and putting these front offices and coaches in really tight spots where it's like he's coming in to try to be the instant cure. It doesn't work. And of course, you're going to get rid of Kevin Durant. You've had him for 2 months. No, you're going to get rid of the coach. That's just the way it is. If whoever they bring in with the Suns next year, if in 2 seasons from now they're still struggling, that guy will be gone, even if KD averages 18 a game. that's just what's going to happen. So, gentlemen, I have to run.
All right.
It's always a pleasure.
All right, Drew, we'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys.
So, Doc, what do you think? Has KD become the league's biggest coach killer?
Coach killer is interesting word to use. I don't think KD was the reason Monty Williams left. I think got fired. I think it was more of the Suns is having terrible ownership. You know, I think they got a new owner just this season. So he wasn't used to Monty, or probably him and Monty didn't get along. So that's why Monty got fired. So I mean, that's what happens when ownership changes and you're an employee and you're an employee of maybe the president of basketball operations, or there's someone important to the organization, you get fired. So I think that played a part. You know, they got a new owner. So that I think that played a big part of it. Luke, because they was a successful team. He had an excuse of why they lost. But KD, on the KD aspect of it, he has an interesting career now. A lot of coaches did get fired because of him. New coaches got hired because of him. But KD just got to look in the mirror and just speak up more and stop blaming. I know he got his boardroom stuff, or he want to talk real basketball fan. KD, things people say about you is true. It's not a false thing. You're not. I ain't gonna lie. You mentioned it 2 weeks ago. He's not looking the same on the court. You know, that ball spot is getting bolder. Yeah, it's getting interesting, man. I don't know. His time is ticking. It's ticking because now Devin Booker. He now looks like he needs Devin Booker to be the best player on the team.
Yeah.
So if KD is a great number 2.
Mm-hmm.
But now you still got to fill the team out. I want to see how the Suns come out next year, but I don't think KD has an attitude where it's like, it doesn't matter who my coach is. So that's why the question is interesting, because he has an attitude like the coaches don't matter. He said it before. Even Kyrie mentioned it when he said Steve Nash, we don't really need a coach. You know, that's what they said before. So I don't know. I think KD, if KD decides he doesn't need a coach, he needs to be a winner and be more of a vocal leader. So I think if you're not going to need a coach, then you need to be that type of vocal like LeBron is. LeBron may not need a coach because LeBron is the coach. KD, you got to become the coach. You can't just hoop. You gotta do everything. You gotta be a leader, and that's why KD doesn't win, because you never led. The only time you had somebody who was a leader was in Golden State, aka Draymond, and that's why you won. So until you find that, you're not gonna ever win, KD.
Right. All right, so let's move on to a not so pleasant topic, and that's John Morant. I can't believe we're here again, and I can't believe he's still hanging around with that Devontae Pack guy, because he's the one holding the phone, broadcasting it on Twitter. So with friends like that, who needs enemies? But on the same time, Ja could say, hey, turn off your phone, or Ja could not be running around with a gun. So I'm just saying Devontae Pack doesn't help the situation. He encourages it, obviously. So I guess my question here is, obviously Ja's going to be suspended for probably more than 8 games that he got last time. So how long do you think he's going to be out? And do you think he's ever going to change?
This situation a little different than the other one. The other one was during the season in a certain state. And it was like he posted himself. This one, the guy, they was on live actually, and Ja just wanted to show it anyway.
Right.
So it wasn't like the guy didn't know Ja was going to show it, but Ja just showed it. Then when Ja showed, he tried to put it down like, "Yo, what you doing?" He did try to do that. I give him his props for doing that.
Okay. You're talking about Devontae Pack.
Yeah. So he was on. That's Ja Morant friend, right? Who's in the car.
Yeah.
He was on Instagram Live. And they was just singing a song together. You know how they were just being buddies, singing a song. And then when he put the camera back on Ja, and one of the lyrics said, like, I got my gun on me. And then Ja brought it back out. Like, come on, Ja. And then when he did that, the guy, I guess his name is Devontae Pack, tried to cover the camera up and say, and tell him, what you doing?
Right.
So he didn't want to. He didn't know he was going to bring it out like that.
I see. So it really all rides on Ja then.
Definitely, and I think that to on your question, the suspension. I don't know. This one is weird. I think his suspension will more come from a disappointment and an agreement they had silently. So the agreement they had silent probably was, Ja, don't ever go live again with a gun. Don't even put yourself in that predicament. We're gonna say you're going to these classes in Florida to rehab yourself. You know, he never went, clearly, because that was really too quick. I never heard of a rehab.
You don't get cured overnight by obviously he's got issues, and you got to go to therapy for years. Doesn't happen with a couple of sessions.
And all we heard about was one session, and we don't even know that was even true now.
Right.
Now, when you heard the commissioner say, I'm very shocked. The commissioner's in a bind now because now it's like he has to sanction Ja more.
Oh, the other owners got to be pissed.
I heard Ja's on the trade block right now, but they don't know how to trade him because they don't know if he's gonna get suspended. Right. But it didn't technically break no NBA laws though. Technically,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't look good for the league. The league doesn't want that image, and so the owners are not going to stand for it. They're just not. You know.
I still know how much games he would get or what would his punishment be, only because it's not technically in the rule book on off season. What can you do during your off season? You know, it is a bad luck. I think it'd be more of a whatever happened silently in the discussion they had on the first incident. So, hopefully, if it's a 40 game, you know, it's going to be a riot. You know, hopefully, I don't know, it'll be 40. I think the most he get is probably 10 to 15. And then it would be a lot of community service and rehab in between that, like starting right now.
I was thinking 20, but right now I would be talking to the guy because he obviously has issues. Okay. And I actually believe it goes back to his father. His father just seems to have his nose way up Ja's business way too much. And I think Ja's subconsciously trying to prove something to his father. And I think he's one of those fathers that you can never be good enough for. And so Ja's, you know, even though he's one of the best basketball players in the world, that's still not hitting it off. You know, his father probably still critical of him. So now he's going to be a tough guy on top of it. That's just my
assessment of it.
Yeah.
I think for me, I think more Ja is, I think he just influenced his age. I think he's influenced by where he's at, Memphis. I think he's influenced by, he wants to, by the hip hop music. He's more like a today's version of Allen Iverson. So it's like.
Yeah, but Allen Iverson never ran around with a gun, at least not that I know of.
I mean, back then there was no social media.
Yeah, true. You know?
And Iverson got in trouble a lot. He got arrested when he was in a bowling alley. You know, Iverson.
But that was in high school.
It was. But Iverson been through a lot. I remember Iverson changed by when he went to Georgetown, did those 2 years with Mr. Coach Thompson. You know, he changed. He had more, like a guy like Larry Brown look over him. I think Ja definitely need more mentorship. But that's the thing. Young people today are just more freelance. They have more options to do whatever they want they don't respect the back in the days. They don't respect older folks no more. See, when I was young, we used to respect the older folks, but now it's not cool to respect older folks. We're the youth. They call you old, you don't know what you're talking about, and they rather just go be youthful and be like NBA Youngboy, the rapper.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, we were talking about Jordan Poole and Draymond, and there seems to be a fracture there, and that seems to go back to kind of what you're talking about. Draymond is being the old guy, though he's not old compared to me. But you know, and it's already cost Morant $40-some million. They say if probably didn't have the incident during the season, he probably would have made all NBA, which would have given him $40 more million. I mean, not that he's already making millions, but still, I mean, that's nothing to laugh at. 40 million lost, but okay. So the Spurs, I called you when the Spurs won the lottery, you had a comment, and I called you the most cynical young person I know.
Tell them what I said.
You said it was rigged.
Rigged.
Do you really believe the lottery was rigged? And what do you have to say about the results and the top 5 teams? I'll read them off, and would be the Spurs, Hornets, Trailblazers jumped up, Rockets, and then Pistons, who I believe were the favorite to get the top pick. So what do you make of the lottery and the top 5 selections?
You really think the NBA will send the Wembanyama to Detroit? No. Okay, that was the easiest. We sent Kid Cunningham there. We're not sending Wembanyama there. So the only team, the perfect team to fit Wembanyama was the Spurs.
Right. No, it was because of those 5, it's the only team with real stability.
Exactly. It was like the perfect situation. The kid actually was there when he was younger because of international players going there just to work out and stuff. When he was like in middle school, he was there. He was already tall. Spurs jersey on, Tony Parker jersey. Come on, I know that it is rigged, man. NBA deemed this kid, right? The greatest prospect ever, right? It's just interesting how it's easy to label him that because a lot of Americans didn't really see him play a full game yet. Think about it. You ask people, okay, they say Wembanyama is great. I ask you, when anybody who tells me that, I'd be like, did you ever see one game? No, I just see highlights. He's 7'5", he moves crazy. I'm like, God, I watched him play 5 times because I was forced to, watching him on the NBA app. His game should be broadcast on the NBA app. A lot of people didn't watch those games though.
Right.
He would score 14, 13. He would get locked up a lot. And
you got to remember though, the competition he's playing against is way more difficult in college.
It is technically. I don't look at it like that.
Well,
the reason I look at it like that is because in college, I feel like basketball is a different sport than any other sport because of the crowd. The crowd and that pressure that puts on you makes you into a different animal. And I think if you that stage, that March Madness stage changes a lot of people. A lot of people don't look the same at March Madness time. Yeah, he might have killed during the regular season, but I want to see how you play March Madness with that when everybody's watching, the atmosphere is there, and that's why I don't respect the NBA bubble. This is off topic because I feel like basketball is known for having a crowd now, and the crowd influence a lot of a basketball game.
Yeah,
the crowd out there is no pressure. He could just play.
Actually, he's been playing in front of some big crowds. So typically in Europe, but he just like last week he played in front of 15,000 in Paris.
In a game with no competition, but when he played with his basketball team, Met 92, and those games it was nobody there. So yeah, and those special games.
I'm saying this week with Met 92. I don't know if they're in the playoffs yet, but he played in front of 15,000 when they played Paris.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
no. That sounds like an international game because
there was such demand for the tickets that they actually moved the game to a bigger stadium. I think his stadium holds like 4,000 or 5,000. So you're right. It's usually the European environment is generally not nearly as intense as college basketball.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right.
When I just watched the kid, man, he doesn't score enough points for me. He didn't. I don't know. Yes, he's tall. I seen Bobo do this in high school, honestly. When Bobo they played the exact same way. But what happened was when Bobo went to college and you got to play in a system, no coaches in college are going to let you play like that. See, if Bobo would have went to G League Unite or Overtime Elite, he would have been a top 3 pick too.
If he didn't get hurt. I mean, that's one of the reasons why he dropped.
He got hurt, but I also thought it was the system, and he wasn't able to show that skill set. And then when he went to the NBA, he had to play behind Jokic. I don't know. I will see. I'm just not that big on him the way everybody else is. Best prospect ever is a drag.
I think he's the clear-cut best player in this draft, but I don't think he's what everybody's making him out to be. We've seen too many of these tall unicorn-like guys. They're really good, but they're usually not going to be the best player or transcendent. They're not going to be like LeBron or Michael or even Devin Booker, or Jimmy Butler. It's just, I think he's going to be a really good player. I think he's going to be an all-star, but I don't know if I don't think he's going to be dominant like LeBron. I mean, they call him a generational talent. No, I don't think so. I think there's other guys, other seven. Like if KP could ever stay healthy, I don't know how much better he's going to be than KP. I think he will be better than KP, but no, I agree. I just don't think he is everything that everyone's making him out to be, but I do believe he's the best player in this draft.
I won't. If I had them one pick, I would be forced to pick him because management would kill me if I did it. I don't know. I still like the Brandon Miller kid. He just has a lot of problems. Scoot Henderson, I don't know. He's another player I liked, but I like to see guys in college, man. I don't know. I like the Thompson twins, but they don't shoot a lick.
Nope.
So,
Nope.
But yeah, I guess you would have to pick. Definitely pick him number one.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sold on the Thompson twins for sure. No, I'm not. I mean, I think they're lottery picks, but I don't necessarily think they're going to be definitely pick 4 and 5. No.
Oh,
no,
wow.
I don't. I mean, they have great size, athleticism, but as you said, they can't shoot. And they haven't played against anybody, and they're not doing anything at the combine. They're not testing at the combine. They're not playing at the combine. That kind of says something to me right there. They avoided the limelight. They didn't go to college on purpose. You got to remember, coming out of high school, they weren't even top 20 guys. Mm-hmm. They were ranked 21 and 22 before they went to overtime elite. So guys like Derek Lively and Dariq Whitehead and Nick Smith, they were all rated well above the Thompsons. So yeah. All right. So final item for today, or for this week, will be our playoff contest. And Booney had been running away with it, but Drew made a huge run here in the semifinals because he picked the Heat, Celtics, and Nuggets. He was the only one to get 3 or 4 right. Booney got 2 right. I got 1 right, and you got 1 right. So you and I are bringing up the rear. Nobody now.
Drew picked the Heat to beat the Bucks.
Drew picked the Heat to beat the Bucks. Yep.
When did he do that?
You'll have to go back and look at the recording.
Yeah, I'm going to go back. I don't think he did that.
Yeah, he did. Unless I made a mistake, but I talked to him about it last week on the show, and and I told him that he had a chance to make up big ground by picking the Heat. But none of our NBA champions are left. 3 of us went with the Bucks. 1 went with the Warriors. Our Eastern Conference champ, the only one that had the Celtics, is Booney, and I'm the only one that had the Nuggets. But then we have as we've been picking them as we go along. But anyway, it's still wide open. All depends on what happens here. But it looks like it's coming down to Drew and Booney. But so with that said, we're not making any picks today. I mean, official picks for our contest. But we ended up with Miami and Boston. And we ended up with the Lakers and Denver. Denver has a 1-0 lead. They play again tonight. And, of course, Miami upset Boston last night. So what do you think? What are your thoughts here? Who's going to end up winning these 2 series?
Damn. I want the Lakers and Boston to play in the finals.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, I don't want to see the Nuggets and the Heat. But I don't mind. I guess I won't mind Nuggets and Boston. But I want to pick Lakers and Boston in the finals.
Lakers and Boston. Yeah. Before you joined us, I was saying, and Drew was agreeing that, I really think we underestimated the Lakers. And a lot of those guys are kind of playing, at the top of their game. I mean, like Schroeder, not so much offensively, but he's probably playing the best defense of his career, for example. And Hachimura is probably playing the best basketball of his career, along with Reeves. So, I definitely underestimated the Lakers. I've still got to ride with Denver. I'm not getting off that train. And they got off to a good lead, though they almost blew it in the end in game one. I really think Boston, they're down 1-0, but they were down 1-0 to the Sixers. They were down 3-2 to the Sixers. Ultimately, they won it. This Boston team, you said a week or two ago that they're not kind of the same under this. Yeah, under this coach, and they kind of seem to mess around a little too much, and they don't put their foot on people's throat. And so, this series will probably go longer than people expected, but I think the Celtics will ultimately come out top, and then we'll have an interesting final. I think Denver and the Celtics, or Denver and the Lakers and Boston would be fun too.
I'm not a hater, y'all, but I don't want LeBron James to win another ring. I cannot stand LeBron James fans. If he win another ring, he's going to be if he loses, though, if LeBron James loses in the finals one more time, it might be bad. I understand him going to 10 finals, they try to overrate that, but he lost. If he loses again, it's going to be like, God damn, LeBron, like, you can't win a finals. Like,
I don't know if people are going to see it that way. I mean, they were the 8th seed, seventh seed, and he's 37 years old. I don't know if people are going to see it that way. I won't see it that way. They've already gotten farther than I thought they would. So
if he wins another ring, do you put him over Michael Jordan?
No, he can win 10 more rings. I won't put him over Michael Jordan. And that case is closed. No, nothing he could do to surpass Michael Jordan. I think he's structured his career. I think he's structured his career by the teams that he selected, by when he plays, when he doesn't play, to break a lot of records. He's achieved that, but no way he's a better player than Michael Jordan. He's just not.
Red was too calculated. Thank you. Calculated. He's one of the smartest basketball minds, and he calculated his career to the T.
Yep.
Everything was calculated. From the teams, he left Miami at the right time. He left the Cleveland Cavaliers at the right time. Everything was calculated. Everything.
Yep. I agree. All right, so we went long this week, so we're going to skip the mailbag, folks. If you'd like to send us a question, though, please do at admin, ADMIN, at hoopsprospects.com. We also take questions via social media on Twitter, at Hoops Prospects, on Instagram, at The Hoops Prospects, and on Facebook, at Hoops Pros. As always, I want to thank all of our listeners. I want to thank our special guest, Drew Peterson, for joining us and extending his time to become part of the HP staff. When I didn't put the link up and you guys were missing, he picked up the slack for you guys. Actually, it was my fault, but anyway. And if you ever miss an episode, folks, you can always get caught up at hoopsprospects.com. We'll be back next week with a special guest. We'll talk more about college hoops, the NBA playoffs, and the NBA draft. Any final thoughts, Doc?
Subscribe to my OnlyFans.
What? My OnlyFans?
I'm playing.
Doc, what do you do on OnlyFans? I'm afraid to ask.
I'm playing. I don't have no Only.
Wow. I used to, but then I gained weight. No, just joking. All right, buddy. It's good seeing you. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the games.
All right, see ya.
Thank you.